Good evening and welcome to the Georgetown School Committee meeting of Thursday, March 12th, 2015. If we could please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Small crowd tonight. Okay, we will begin the meeting with the approval of minutes. The chair will entertain a motion to approve regular session minutes of February 26th, 2015, special session minutes of March 5th, 2015, and acceptance of warrants 37V15 and 36P15.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Okay, our student rep, Vanessa, is not here today, but she'll be back in a couple of weeks. Is there anyone here from the audience that would like to talk about anything on the agenda? Okay. Okay, so first up, we have Mr. Chris DeFranco here with the athletics report.
Chris?
How's everyone doing?
Good, how are you?
Good. So I'm here to talk about winter athletics, and I just realized looking at this, it should say 2014-15 at the top. So we had actually really high numbers, which was awesome. When you look at the total, we were up 27 athletes from last year. And part of that was we did add a second middle school basketball team, and we also added skiing. So both of those programs did drive the numbers up a little bit, which was great. So kind of just walk through the seasons, talk a little bit about revenue, and then we'll talk about the spring. So girls basketball, they had 10 wins, which is a lot for them. In recent history, they maybe have been there once in the last 5 or 6 years, so really, really good. They did miss the state tournament, unfortunately. They had a 22-game schedule, and you have to win 50% of the games. So, yeah, so they just missed it.
Last
That's
game
so
was really
sad.
close.
Yeah.
They really played well that last game. They just missed.
Yeah, and they got some nice league awards. Maya Spence was named first team All-Star. Rory Donahue and Kayla Durkee were named second team. I think I told you guys this in the fall, they renamed them, so it used to be All League and All Star, and now they have first team and second team, so it's basically the same thing. Boys basketball struggled for wins, but they're young, and they graduated 2 seniors who, did a great job with leadership. But the rest of the team, we'd assume, will be coming back, so there's a lot of...
They lost a lot of kids last year.
Yeah, after a really good state tournament run the year before, so they're, as we'd say, rebuilding, but I think next year they're going to be pretty good. They had a second team All-Star in Ryan Slack. Cheering, there's some updates to this, which is kind of fun. So they did win the Cape Ann League tournament, so they're going to get a banner in our newly renovated gym.
Oh, yes. Look beautiful.
Yeah, they did lose in the regionals, but they didn't advance by, I think it was 0.7 points. So they came this close to moving on to states.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, so they did a really good job. Lizzie Wood was named a league all-star, and this is a brand new thing. They won the MSSAA Community Service Award. Yeah, so
For
they're
the
recognized.
Was that for the cancer?
Yeah, so Dana-Farber
fundraiser?
actually nominated them.
That's so
they,
nice.
Wow.
Well, they raised a ton of money.
Absolutely, yeah, over $10,000.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's
so
great.
it was just an
They
amazing
did,
thing.
in one afternoon, right?
That was the bulk of it was a buzzathon. Yeah,
Yeah.
but they
That's awesome.
raised throughout the season. Some of the other teams contributed by wearing pink, and some of the extra money was donated. So a lot of really good things there. So we were really proud of them. They went out to Wachusett, and they received their award. So it was really nice.
Tracy Wood is the coach, and she's just really brought that program to another level.
Absolutely.
They always had a lot of girls interested, but since Tracy's taken over, it really has become a really viable sport, and they go to these tournaments and perform very, very well.
Yeah, she dedicates a lot of time.
She does.
And just as much time as they do with the cheering, the outreach to the community and the school is just amazing.
That's
so.
right.
Wrestling, they had the best record in school history.
That's awesome.
Wow.
We did host the Cape Ann League tournament for the first time in over a decade, and it was a huge success thanks really to the wrestling community coming out and
They were
helping.
great.
It was amazing. And they did get some awards as well. Coach Archambault was named Coach of the Year, very deserving. Charlie Galanis was named Wrestler of the Year. So
And he is not at Georgetown?
he's an Ipswich wrestler, yeah. So we co-op with Ipswich.
Yeah, He's an amazing wrestler.
Absolutely.
I mean, he's a standout. He's really a standout, and he's an awesome kid.
He's such a great kid.
I mean, he's just one of those all around
Wow.
wonderful. And his parents. I mean, his parents were so instrumental. We just went to the banquet the other night, and it's just there's such camaraderie on that team. It's really amazing.
And Charlie is committed to WPI, where
Yeah.
he will wrestle.
Yeah, he's
so.
very smart as well.
Our ski team, so this was the first year they started off as a JV team, so it's a 2-year JV co-op. Our numbers were a little low, 7 girls and 4 boys. To race, we really need 8 girls at the varsity level, and obviously 8 boys at the varsity level. So if we can get our numbers up, in 2 years they'd become a varsity sport. If not, the league would look to drop the boys, so if their numbers are too low. So that's something that we have to look at. So we're hoping, and it's a co-op with Triton and Newburyport. So
And we're hosting.
we're the host, yep. So we're hoping that the numbers go up, but it's user funded, so it didn't lose money or anything like that, which is good. Swim, we had the first wins in school history, which is really cool, and that's a co-op with Triton. Jen Nutter was named Swimmer of the Year.
She's phenomenal.
She's
Her
awesome.
and her brother,
Yeah.
phenomenal
Oh, yeah,
swimmers.
Matt was awesome, too.
Yeah, good for
Yeah, I
her.
think they've grown up with it.
Yeah,
They've
good
been.
for her.
And she really helped kind of get the program going, so
I know.
it's going to be sad that she's graduating.
Very sad.
Boys ice hockey with Pentucket. They had a new coach this year. We haven't got the all league info for the girls or the boys ice hockey teams. The girls are with Masco. They did qualify for the state tournament. They did lose, but they made a great run. And same thing, we don't have the all league info for them yet. Participation numbers, as you can see, girls basketball was even, boys basketball was up 5, cheer was up 7, wrestling was up 3, ski was a new sport, and then our co-ops were about the same as last year. So the numbers were better in-house and pretty much the same with the co-ops, which is really, really good news. Revenue, basically on par with last year. As far as the user fees kind of made up for our lack of gate money. We're down $3,000 from
Yeah,
last year.
why do you think that was?
Yeah.
Honestly, the boys didn't do well in basketball.
So you think the,
Yeah, it's
You
very
know,
true.
but I am surprised at how many people go to the basketball games, the varsity basketball games that have little kids.
Yeah.
Which I think is great that they do that they bring
Oh,
their
absolutely.
kids, and I was just surprised that it was down that
Yeah, the
much.
student section kind of stopped showing up, which hurt our revenue.
Yes.
Well,
Okay.
do students pay?
Yes.
Oh,
They
they
don't
get the
pay.
discount,
They-
that's
yeah, they
right.
get
a They pay
So
half
it's the
price.
players that don't play, like if
Right,
you're
yeah,
in
so if you're in the
school-
program, you don't pay, but
Correct,
all the other
okay,
fans.
so you think just the Blue Crew,
Yeah,
didn't-
and other teams, we rely on their fans coming too, and
Yeah.
we didn't have a lot of big games this year,
yeah,
unfortunately.
that was quite a bit of.
The girls drew pretty well, which was nice.
Mm.
So we were up a tiny bit from last year, which was good. And then for the spring, we're going to have all of our regular sports, boys and girls lacrosse, softball, baseball, middle school track. We are entering the second year of an outdoor track co-op with Triton. Same thing with our skiing. The numbers were down a little bit last year, first track, so we're kind of in really, really push hard mode, because if we don't provide the numbers, I think we will be dropped.
Okay, so that's a question for you that I have, because I have had a couple of parents talk to me about that. Do we have a plan for, like, if
I think
that happens?
we get to a point where if we don't have enough kids, we can't run a program.
Well, you've done such a great job reaching out.
Yeah,
I
we've
appreciate
tried,
that and
yeah,
trying to keep
yeah.
the program going, but is there any
So we've lost Ipswich
options?
already.
I know.
So
Triton,
I don't see anyone taking
everybody else
us.
has their own
Yeah,
stand-up program that they do fine
Yeah,
on
we're
their own.
small.
right. And what's the incentive for another school to take us if
I
we do
know.
the same thing to them?
But I just hate to see, being a runner myself,
Absolutely.
I hate
But
to
so
see-
far we have
I
about
hate to
15
see any
kids.
sport go, because we had talked about it, once it goes, it's so
doesn't come
hard to
back,
get it
yeah.
back.
Yeah, we have about 15 kids though, so that's up from 5 from last year. So I think us pushing has helped.
That's good.
Yeah.
That, yeah, makes a difference.
Absolutely. We tried to get a tennis team going. We had no one sign up on the
No one signed
on
up
the
for
boys'
it?
side. The girls, we have one girl who might be signing up, and we're
Can't run it for one.
well, it's with Triton, so
Oh, it's with
they'd be
Triton.
hosting. Yeah, so we're hoping that works out. But with the boys' side, they're actually they might not have enough boys at all in general to run it, so they're gonna have to make that tough decision. So we're hoping that they get enough kids. We do have a new varsity softball coach, Sean Doherty. He's hit the ground running. He's also working in the school, so He's, I think, going to be a real asset to the program. As you can see, we're really looking forward to getting out on that turf field. It's melting pretty quickly, so we had talked about potentially getting out there with shovels and snow blowers, and
We have a warranty.
yeah.
We don't want to avoid the warranty.
No, we
I
don't.
think we'd
As
have to hire
tempting
professionals to
as
clear.
tempting
clear it.
as it is to get right
Well,
out there.
That's what they
and do it.
told, was it Marshfield that was on the news the other night?
Marshfield,
And that's
yeah.
what they were saying, they're gonna hire professionals to do it because of the warranty and, you know, you can imagine the kids' frustration
Absolutely.
seeing it out there under like 4 feet of snow, but that's the right thing to do.
Yeah,
But I
the
wonder how
communities
much
just
that's
put too
gonna
much
That
money
costs
into
money.
a field.
Chris got a price of 3,500. We got a price of, Mike got a price of 5,000.
Yeah, Mike
Yeah,
said
actually, the
5,000.
price that they said on the news for that other community wasn't that high, it was like under 3,000, which I was surprised.
So we did have an emergency meeting with the Cape Ann League on Friday of last week to kind of discuss, because everyone's pretty much in the same
Yeah,
boat.
not everybody has a turf field.
Right, and even the schools with turf fields said they're not plowing, so that was good to see that we're all sort of in a level playing field.
Generally.
The state is talking about potentially moving the season back a week, so to give us some extra days to get those
Okay.
games in. So I think it'll all work out in the end, as it always does.
Right.
But right now, there's definitely some frustration from the parents and the kids. But
Sure.
you know, in a few weeks they'll be out there, and hopefully even sooner.
Hopefully sooner. We'll see.
We're planning on opening or having our big kind of opening ceremony on Friday, April 10th. We're gonna do a boys girls lacrosse doubleheader. So it'll be the girls at 5 and the boys at 7.
Yeah.
We're gonna hook up with the youth as well. Any of the youth lacrosse players, if they're wearing their Georgetown jersey, they're gonna get them for free. So that'll hopefully drive up to some of the attendance and
Yes,
be really,
yeah.
really good.
That's an exciting event. It's
Yeah.
on my calendar.
Awesome. And then we're gonna have a naming ceremony in the fall after Joe Coleman, because he was a football coach. So we think it's appropriate to do it on a football game.
Yeah.
Right.
And in other news, I don't know, did you guys get the information about volleyball? I'm not sure if that made it to you or not.
Well, why don't you talk to them
Okay.
about it?
So, as you may know, we had a volleyball co-op with Triton last year, and it grew too big, too fast. So they
For them or us?
for them, honestly. So it was Triton, Georgetown, Pentucket, and for volleyball, a good varsity team, you're going to have about 10 to 12 kids. They had 60 come out.
Oh, my goodness.
It seems like it's the new sport.
Yeah, so they actually cut kids, which, you know, you're not supposed to cut from a co-op. That's, you know, kind of the spirit of the co-op is if you don't have the numbers.
Yeah, you're supposed to only do it if you
Right.
don't have.
So they kept it first. So they created a second JV team just so that some kids, you know, got to play. So what happened is they decided, you know, we're going to move on from this because we can't maintain this co-op. So Georgetown and Georgetown and Pentucket are going to get together next year.
Oh, good.
Georgetown's going to be the host. We do have MIA approval. There's, you know, some logistics to that. We have to get the poles inserted in with the new gym project. It actually makes a lot of
Planned for it
sense.
in the new gym project.
Yeah.
Because we anticipated it.
And they come out for gym class and basketball and all of that. And the gym classes can actually use it too, which will be really nice because they have a good volleyball unit.
So there'll be little special
Sleeves, you'd call them, yeah.
in the floor.
Yep.
But
Wow.
they cover, you know,
Cover.
so you don't, so you're not worried about anybody
Yeah.
hurting
Yeah,
themselves.
Okay.
So,
So how many Georgetown?
we had
kids
an
will-
initial sign up and we had, I think, 12 girls.
What?
Yeah.
And what do you think about Pentucket?
They'll probably, and again, when you have 12 kids sign up, that means 6 will probably actually play.
Oh.
You know, that's
think
what, with
that much?
skiing we had.
50%?
Yeah, with skiing we had 20 kids sign up and we ended up with 11. So it's kind of what happens. So Pentucket, we think about 10 as well. So it should be a good varsity team. If there's spillover, we'll look into a
That
JV
sounds
program.
fun.
Yeah.
So are we still okay with Title IX, like numbers of?
Yep. So volleyball is it's with Title IX. If you don't offer the boys version of the sport, so boys volleyball is a spring sport and it really doesn't exist in the Cape Ann League. Boys are eligible to play on the volleyball team in the
Well,
fall.
that's what I was wondering. So
Absolutely.
is it a co-ed team?
Right.
Because I think you all know about Title IX. You can't offer more programs for either boys or girls.
So it's just like a boy could play field hockey or a girl could play football.
Right, right.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're gonna start off with opening it to grades 9 through 12, and then we'll see where the numbers are. Potentially open to 8th graders if the numbers dictate that. As with all of our new programs, it'll be 100% user funded for 3 years to make sure that it is sustainable. and we've been successful with golf. Golf actually just came off of being 100% user funded, so. So that would include the coach, the equipment, uniforms, buses, officials, and there'll be some fundraising to help with that because that's a big startup cost. Let's see. The current league schedule has 12 games, so we are on the league schedule, and we'll look to add some non-league games as well.
Chris, let me just go back to that, fully, funded by the parents. So when they sign up, these 12 people that signed up, what do we give them for, like, do we give them any idea of?
We'll give them an estimated cost, absolutely.
So can you tell me like an estimated cost?
So it would be the coach, which we negotiated with the union, which depending on how much experience they have at the high school level, will either be roughly 3,700 or 4,200. Initial equipment, and I'm not sure if this is rolled into the building project or not. I'm not sure if where that money's coming from for the
what,
net.
Chris?
Volleyball. The net.
The actual net?
I have not seen that in the
Okay.
building project.
So that's
I don't
something we'd
believe
have
it. I
to.
think the answer is it's not in the building
It's
project.
roughly $5,000
But
For the
I
net?
will ask. 5,000 for the
poles,
net.
right?
within the poles and
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
Right.
Any installation.
Sticking out the little, yeah, it's
All right.
not a
Whole setup.
$5,000 net, yeah.
It's a net,
All
okay.
right, I'll ask about
Yeah.
that.
Yep. Uniforms, probably about $1,000.
Uh-huh.
And then your buses and officials would work out to, I'm just guesstimating here, $2,000
A piece?
total.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's for the us.
Which that's like
Okay.
12 to 13,000 bucks.
And you're dividing it
Is
among,
that divided? So does that mean $1,000?
So we'd hope,
Assuming the
right?
12.
So we'd hope
10 and 12.
we'd hope that they'd fundraise,
From Pentucket.
honestly, to help defray that cost.
So what was, just give, can you give us an idea, Chris, when golf was fully funded?
Yep.
What were the parents paying for golf?
So golf started out over 500,
Okay,
and it's going to go in as a 475 user fee at the top tier.
okay. So I guess so the question becomes, why would it be so much more expensive potentially for volleyball?
Right. So one is the equipment. So for golf, there was no startup cost with equipment, and two was the officials. There are no officials in golf.
so if the 5,000 is in the building project,
Right,
though,
then
that
that's-
cuts
Yeah,
the
that's what
cost
I'm
right
asking,
out.
yep.
Or is there a way to split that up over the 3 years of the user? I mean, it seems
That's
like
not a bad idea.
a harsh way to, thanks for joining the team, you gotta pay for the net.
Yeah, that's not a bad
And the
idea.
guy next year gets it for free.
We
I
just
don't
have to
know if
find the
that's-
money to be able to pay for the net.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's a hounding thing, but.
I like that.
Yeah, right.
So that you, okay. I'll ask them.
And we have some parents who are very intent on helping fundraise, which is good.
Oh, that's great.
And there's gate fees for that?
I'd have to find out what the league does with that. I don't think there generally are, because with the gate fee, you have to pay someone to take the gate, so
Right.
you have to make sure that it's actually worth doing.
Yep.
But it's good because it's a fall sport, so the gym really doesn't get a lot of use in the fall after school.
Can you not, do the, community service at the gate? Does it have to do with
No,
kids
because they're taking money.
money?
Yeah.
So, and we're pretty confident this won't hurt field hockey?
I mean, it could take a couple kids. We looked at the list of the kids that signed up. I think there were
Okay.
2 soccer players, 2 field hockey players, so it's marginal.
Because field hockey's been one of those sports where it's been really, really popular and then really, really not popular. So, we talk about that with the co-ops. It's wonderful to have so many opportunities, right? And you do want to do what the kids are interested in. So if more kids are interested in lacrosse and it becomes more of a sport than field hockey, well, then maybe you can't sustain both. But as much as possible, we try to watch that balance, that we don't make it
Take away.
tough for 2 groups of people because there's really not enough for both. And so if you don't think, based on the signups, that that's happened, I'm fine, Okay.
Does that have to be approved? I don't know.
Yeah, I think it does have to be approved.
It does?
Yeah. I don't think it's in our little orange notes.
Because I was told I can't post the coaching position until,
Yeah,
so when.
right,
So just for volleyball?
yes. And it's, so is it varsity,
So it starts as a
Volleyball.
varsity, and then we see where the numbers are. If there's enough, then we move on.
and is it boys and girls volleyball, or just?
It's fall volleyball.
Fall volleyball, fall varsity
varsity
volleyball.
Okay, so the chair will entertain a motion to approve fall varsity volleyball co-op with Pentucket for the 2015-2016 school year. as presented.
So moved.
Discussion? Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Awesome.
I wish you the best of luck with that.
Thank you. I think it's going to be a really big success.
We've been talking about volleyball for about
Probably
4
since
years now.
Yeah, been here. And then the only other kind of new thing I have on the agenda, we are developing a relationship with Leahy Clinic, where they're going to provide our impact baseline testing.
I saw that.
Yeah, and they are also providing football helmets, a brand new set of football helmets, 65 of the Zenith.
And those are very
That's very
expensive.
exciting.
Helmets
That's
are
great.
very expensive.
Awesome.
So did you form that relationship, or was it
It
somebody
was really,
that-
I think Dan Myers deserves the credit.
and his son is graduating?
His son's
this year,
graduating,
correct?
so he's
Right.
kind of leaving behind a nice legacy.
That's great.
Yeah, so he kind of opened the door, and we've been meeting a lot. There's going to be a family information night on April 2nd, and I don't have the start time yet, but so
Okay.
the flyer will be coming out. And it's going to be for all sports, about just concussions, protocols, all those sorts of things. And then there'll be sort of a sidebar afterwards for the football parents. And it'll be open to all the community, not just the high school.
Oh, great.
That's a great partnership.
Absolutely.
So maybe Pam, you can put that date on our Facebook page, and
Absolutely,
we'll
I
post it
will.
on our websites. And
I certainly will.
Okay, that's good.
thank you, Chris.
Thank you for coming
Appreciate all
out.
your help.
It's wonderful. Okay, we have administrative reports. Let me just see what do we got.
Okay, so a few things. So Michael, the public relations, as I said in the orange notes, the public relations committee has been working a lot on the whole issue of communication and how do we get the word out and you know, what vehicles do we currently use? I mean, the Facebook page seems to be successful, and people, you know, thanks to Pam's diligent posting, she does exactly what I hoped we'd have somebody do. So, you know, it seems to be, you know, one way that we're getting there. We're talking about some redesign of our website to make it a little bit more intuitive and a little easier to follow. Now that we've got a good framework, it's really like, can we take the next step to make it even more automatic, and you know. And Michael's actually been very helpful with sharing his expertise, working with Wes and Barry. And
Great.
but one of the things we talked about at this group before was the let's talk, because we liked that concept of sort of the two-way communication and the ability to sort of track what's interesting to people, and so we could you know kind of get you know we could take whatever was really interested and make sure we got it out in a larger format. So we decided after you know, researching Let's Talk for even though we love the tool, we did feel that the cost was a little bit more than we felt, you know, was that we could do. And so, you know, Michael said, well, I think I could play with that a little and maybe come up with something that was similar, you know, and maybe, you know, meet our needs a little bit more. So here we are. We're ready. We want to try to launch something. I know Michael's been working with Wes. Did Wes contact you?
Yeah, we
okay.
emailed back and forth. A few
Perfect.
times.
So, you know, because you know, obviously, we want our technology staff to be, you know, very, very involved with this. So, do you want to talk a little bit about what we've been working
Sure.
on, the logistics of it?
So the idea is to, rather than just have a contact us form on the website, have something more that prompts more in terms of why someone would use it. So it'll offer sort of, you know, I have a question about sports, since we were just talking about that. So they would essentially choose an option off of the list, ask a question about sports.
From a drop-down menu?
It would be a drop down. That's one of the things that we're trying to iron out a little bit, is whether it's a drop down or whether there's almost putting it into an FAQ sort of a format. So almost, here's our effort to answer your question before you have to ask it. If it still didn't answer it, ask us the question. An email would go, at least in sort of the first round, would go to Carol to figure out who the right person is to talk to. The user would get an automatic response. Thanks for your inquiry about sports. You know, we'll be in touch. I think we said within 72 hours. And the goal was to, you know, 72 hours was the worst possible response time, but it just buys a little time just to make sure that we can deliver. And then sort of depending on what the question is, Carol answers it, hands it off to Chris or whoever the right person is, to get to really make it more of a conversation tool instead of a how many people use a contact us button on a website, you wonder if it actually goes anywhere, you don't get a response. The goal here would be, there's that automatic response, and it's going to feel automatic, to be fair, but it's also going to prompt an actual response with a real answer from someone. And there will be a way it's not going to be tracking it the same way Let's Talk might have done, but because it's going to be sorted sort of in those categories, you can easily see, a lot of people are asking about the fall volleyball team. That's something we should pay attention to, or, it's something to kind of raise a flag of.
So it'll enable the school district to really quantify the public's concern and questions about any particular issue, and it'll also invite the public and any, parents and families to make contact with us. I mean, it's kind of more, obviously they can email us, but we just wanna remind them that we're always welcome and we always wanna hear from them and help them out with any kind of information that they would like.
That's great.
So it should be, I need to talk with Wes, but it should be reasonably very soon.
So then we'd have to figure out
That's a technical.
how we're gonna launch it, how we're gonna launch it, get the information out,
Yeah.
so people know this is how you access it, whether we send a Connect Ed message saying, check us out on, the website, this is our new tool to communicate with you, or that, as well as Facebook, as well as, the morning announcements at the schools. I think we'd sort of have a blitz
Yeah.
of the different ways that we, I'd probably write a blog about it, so, once we have the logistics of, sort of, is it, how do you create the backbone if it's already done? How do you make it pretty? When is it ready to launch? How would people find it? So that FAQ.
And kind of do a soft launch,
Yeah.
put it up, troubleshoot it, make sure it's
Bless
working
you.
before we actually kind of full on tell people about it.
We're looking, do we determine a name?
We have not.
So we're looking, maybe you have some.
one last time
so
that I
maybe you
thought was
have some-
catchy.
We're listening,
Yeah, something like
It's-
that.
yeah.
something like that?
I feel like that's
We're looking
the
for something catchy.
that's
but
the most
Don't
the
be
the
corny.
consensus one,
Don't do
but
corny.
we
without much
don't want to.
consensus.
We don't want to do corny, but we need to probably stay away from the word talk.
Oh, right. Yeah, we'll have a licensing.
Yeah, we
Sue.
don't want, right, and it's not gonna be exactly the same.
Yeah.
No, definitely not.
But it will be new and different, compared to anything else that we have. And we want to be able to reach everyone, but everyone is open to different ways. The Facebook community, I think, is enjoying and making use of the Facebook page, but not everybody is in the Facebook community.
No,
And,
I'm not.
not everybody is comfortable going to the website, and, everyone has their different preferred means of communication. And so I think it's really important that we branch out and use,
Reach all those
and
different
reach
people.
all of them, yeah.
I mean, it is important to find the right communication tools because, when we had a parent meeting recently at the Pembrokes for the Pembroke transition, the PTA did a little session. I don't know how many people were there. Were there like 40 people?
I don't
I
think
would
that many,
say-
do you think?
Okay,
Yeah.
25, 30. It was I thought well attended, but
Yeah.
when we asked were there some questions ahead of time, Holly did a wonderful job of sort of characterizing them into sort of themes.
Jill.
Or Jill,
Jill.
sorry. Jill.
Holly
and
was
Jill,
there
I get
too.
them mixed up.
She
But
was
Holly
there
and
too.
Jill were both there.
Yeah.
But Jill did a
Jill.
wonderful job of categorizing them into themes and then facilitating the meeting, which was very helpful. But it occurred to me as I was reading those questions that it's like, oh, we've talked about all of these things here a few times, but the questions were on the list. I thought, oh, okay. The problem is if
Nobody
people
knows
don't
if
watch
they don't
the school committee, they don't have it. They don't have the information. So that's why we're working on taking those categories and those questions, putting them in a certain place on the Pembroke site, and then having people be able to sort of click on it, and then they can check, they can go down to the question they're interested in, and as we have, like, for example, we answered them in the orange notes, we can cut and paste those answers right underneath,
Yes.
and that way, we close the loop.
Yes.
Because here we're thinking, why are they asking us questions about how sixth grade's gonna be structured? We've talked about that for months, but obviously, it didn't go out to the
the
people.
public.
But
to
the parents are
public.
wondering about it, and
Yeah.
they also
They do
provide
do
great subjects
reruns,
for
don't they?
blogs.
Of
They
the
do,
school
but I
board?
don't think
know how
unless you're
often.
willing, unless you check the agenda ahead of time, you don't know what's gonna happen on the school committee
A
meeting.
lot of people
so.
don't have time for television. I mean, I don't watch a lot of television
A lot of people do
myself, you
watch
know.
it,
Some
but
people do.
This
and
is pretty
that's
thrilling
great.
TV, though.
That's,
What's on lately, The Bachelor School Committee.
yeah.
I
Dancing
go
with
for
the
school
Stars is starting
committee.
to.
That's great,
But this
thank
is-
you
this
for
is
all the
real life
time though,
reality.
thank you for,
Gotta be a lot of
you know,
time.
you guys
And
definitely
it's-
do a great job in that PR, like I've seen that subcommittee come so far,
well,
you know,
it's,
which is great.
Oh, we
Thank
aren't,
you.
we aren't
you
done
know,
yet,
we
we're,
try to
we'll be
stay
back.
current, and there's always, you know,
We still have-
new
We're talking about a
concerns coming
district
up.
satisfaction survey, we're working on that, we got a few
Well, what
little
about the
irons
TV
in the
show?
fire.
There's a TV show.
We haven't been
We
working on
talked
the
about
TV,
that.
we'd love to do a TV show, but you know what, we can only do so much, and I think with the building project this year, it's been really a lot of work, but yeah, you're right, the TV show would be perfect this year to get those
Well, I
Pembroke
just love
questions
the
answered.
idea you
I do
had
too.
about bringing the students in.
I haven't given
giving
up
a
on
kid's
it.
perspective
Yeah,
of
we don't
life
have
at
a video
Georgetown.
production
We,
group at
we
the high
don't,
school?
but that's something now that we have, like Wes, that, you know,
Yeah.
he's very interested in talking about, ways that he can develop, like an internship program
yeah.
with kids. And that was another thing I was thinking, was talking to some folks about, you know, with the, with the Pearly School, the upstairs, you know, there would be room to create a little television studio up there if they wanted to do that, and then maybe there could be television production courses. Apparently at the high school,
That's a
when they
great
did the
idea.
renovation, I know, I have to stop thinking of ideas because then I make myself nuts, but,
I won't say
but,
what's going
but
through
there
my
used to be,
mind, but-
right now, at the high school, it's not used for that purpose anymore, but they had a wonderful little, you know, television studio up there.
And that's where Peter said the school committees
Yeah,
meetings
you
used to
Peters,
be.
that's right, used to have the meetings, it was a little crowded for that though, wasn't it?
Yeah, you had to wait outside, like we would be outside.
Until you were summonsed in.
Yeah, so we wouldn't want that to happen,
Oh,
but,
that's, yeah,
but,
when you told me that when I
but, you know,
toured
maybe
it, I thought that was neat.
GCTV would wanna have, have people, you know, they.
You could
they-
do a tour of the new school that way, you know, instead of bringing people through, just somebody walking
We,
through. and
you know, we did that. We had Charlie Mendez do that when we were trying to talk about the Pembroke project and the need for a building project. So we took people on a tour and Charlie walked around with his, you know, his video camera and it ran on TV and a lot of people really commented that that was really helpful to them because they couldn't necessarily get out. But they got a feel for, you know, Charlie would focus on the, you know,
Well,
the
and that's
areas
what I
that were.
think people would love that now, because everybody's just clamoring to get inside
That'd be
the
really
school.
easy to do.
The new school.
Oh, yeah. So anyway,
It'll be
that,
worth the
yeah,
wait.
we're busy.
That's
Indeed.
good, thank
We're
you.
busy.
That sounds great. Okay.
Okay, oh, it's still my turn. Pembroke Transition Communication, that's what I was just talking to you about, it's like, how are we gonna keep, you know, close that loop and get that, and we did, Margaret's got a coffee coming up, when is that? Margaret?
Friday?
Oh, tomorrow, there we go, tomorrow, and, you know, we had one last month, right, and I'm sure that this topic is gonna continue to be the, you know, the transition, so, we've said, you know, if people want whatever forum they want, you know, we're happy to come and speak directly, with them, but that is a priority, and we just really have to keep moving forward with that. And then the scoreboard design, so, John Pinkery's been working with a designer, as you remember, the Georgetown Bank, they made a generous donation, and so he just kind of was putting this together, so obviously it was like, you know, we're dedicating it to Jim Collmore, so they've got his name on it, and then Home of the Royals, and then they wanted to get the insignia in the middle. And then, you remember John talked about, you know, the bottom, just the advertising, I think that's tastefully done, I don't
I
think
do too.
that's,
Yeah.
you know.
I liked it.
So anyway, I told John, that I would bring it to the school committee and see, you know, if everybody was sort of in favor of it. Peter and Chris DeFranco looked at it as well and, commented, I think Chris had a comment that John will take into consideration, but I just wanted you to be aware of it. Remember when we talked about the scoreboard, we said we'd bring you back a
Yeah,
mock-up
copy,
if we had one, so that's what we're,
When I was looking, it's beautiful. The thing that caught me when it's like where it says the welcome to Jim Collmore
Yeah,
Field,
yeah.
I was just to see like Jim Collmore in the middle, like
oh,
Jim
so,
Collmore Field.
oh, so not maybe the welcome to
No, welcome to, but then have his name like
bold. Well, would you
By
want it
itself,
on
like,
the
By
arch?
itself.
So not on the arch?
No. That's what I was thinking, like
Well,
bold
would there be
and.
room? How would you?
Well, I don't know.
like-
I don't know.
So
I'm
is your
saying-
question, Barbie, that you don't know, that you don't think that the Jim Collimore's name is bold enough,
Pronounced,
pronounced enough? Okay, I can give
Yeah.
John that feedback.
I was just, I think it looks beautiful. I'd be fine either way, but that just stood out to me. It is, it's beautiful.
I
Yeah.
love it, I absolutely love it.
Yeah,
I
I wonder
hear
if you
your
could do
concern, but I'm
a
not sure.
different font or
I'll ask him,
just
yeah.
even if you made welcome to and field slightly smaller and Jim Collins slightly larger or
Right,
bolder.
and keep it in the,
But keep it that.
No, I know, yeah.
did you hear?
It's an idea.
So just to,
Okay, so I'll mention that to him.
so how soon are
And
they
then you could
thinking
put
of
Jim
getting it?
Collmore more in the middle.
I don't know, John's working on it, so I think it's a matter of, the money's in the budget, obviously, to get it installed. But, they wanna move forward with some
gonna look
design,
so
because they
nice.
have to put it together, and obviously if we wanna have it ready, for the fall, and, and we wanna have, if we're gonna start having games on the field, we want a scoreboard, so I said, well, I'm actually having school committee on Thursday, and maybe we can, get their feedback.
Yeah, it looks great.
Did you ask your children what they thought of this?
No,
No, I asked mine. They like it.
they do?
Yes.
Yeah, it's
Okay, so
beautiful.
I'll
yeah.
ask if his name can be more pronounced.
Very impressed.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's gonna look
thank you, that's
beautiful.
awesome. So, let me just see where, so that's all I had. So,
Give that to Carol.
we're gonna,
That's just an idea.
okay.
If you keep it on the arch.
Keep it on the edge, but just make
His name
his
a little
name
more
more
stand
pronounced.
out.
Okay, I can mention that.
Well, and if the font was smaller for the welcome to in the field, then you could put Jim Collmore in the middle, like Barbie was saying.
Yeah, that's how I did it in the drawing.
Oh, okay.
Okay, yeah, okay, I will talk to John about it. So, do you want to, do this, would you mind, well, actually, the next thing coming up is what we wanna talk about, which is the financial report, cause we do have Amanda Harding, who's here, I wanted to have you meet her. Come on up, Amanda, maybe Margaret, you can come with her. So Amanda's going to be the preschool director, remember we talked about how we were gonna change the structure? So Amanda is a kindergarten teacher, and she's just gonna be returning from maternity leave, because she has two wonderful boys, little boys.
And actually in pre-K for the past.
And one of her oldest son, believe it or not, she had tears the other day when she signed him up for preschool. Her oldest is going to school, but, we've been talking about the different options and different things that we can do, and so we said, well, gee, why don't we just ask Amanda to come to the meeting if she doesn't mind, so you could meet her, and, Amanda's going to, it's sort of, Margaret's gonna be in charge of the preschool, cause she's the administrator, but Amanda's gonna be doing the day-to-day operation, so, she'll be doing, the paperwork, and, people will ask her the questions, and Margaret's sort of her mentor, and, Margaret will stay in touch with it, but it won't be, Margaret won't be the face
Right.
of the program, it will be Amanda.
So is this going to be more like when Dr. Arndt, not when she was principal, but when,
Yeah, she was the preschool director, right?
right, so is that similar?
Yeah, I think so. She's talking about before we were here, but, they had some grant money, and, Janet Arndt wrote a lot of grants, and they got a lot of wonderful, materials, those beautiful supplies that are in the rooms, a lot of that came from Janet's efforts to, really get those preschool classrooms just in beautiful condition.
And when I came to Pearlie, we worked really hard at integrating pre-K into the life of the K and one, so that it wasn't a separate program. So, when K and one leave, then, and their pre-K is back to being, self-standing, but there's professional development, there is the day-to-day, there's the outreach. So there will need to be somebody actively involved in the day-to-day to make sure those things continue. And then, of course, we still have the transition between pre-K and kindergarten, so of course, that's where,
An early intervention,
Right.
students who are qualifying and coming into the preschool, does need to be, a liaison there. So it wouldn't work if we just tried to give it to Margaret and, she came over occasionally. I mean, there really does need to be. And Amanda's interested in pursuing some, some certification, as in administration, so it's an interest of hers as well, so that's good. And Amanda will still teach. She will teach, which is thrilling for us because she's a really great teacher. We hate to lose her completely, but she's going to, remember we talked about that hybrid class where we were gonna hire the part-time teacher? So there'll be times when Amanda will come out of the classroom to be doing, her work as the director, and then the children will have, the other teacher, in there. So they'll be co-teaching and team teaching and, putting that together.
So is that kindergarten or preschool?
Preschool, did I say
They'll be
kindergarten?
teaching Well, I
I always do
Yeah.
that. Didn't I make that mistake the other day?
Amanda was Dominic's kindergarten teacher.
Oh, there you go.
He's now in 7th grade. I know. So that's why I just still have it.
There you go, Amanda.
Yep, I know.
How do you think I feel?
I know, that's true.
It's true.
No, that's.
Yeah, so, we've been working on the preschool just had its lottery. And, Amanda brought her boys in and, people love having the babies around, so she could do the work. And, we met several times and, Margaret's been meeting and trying to just come up with what's the need of the community, what's the best way to structure the classes and.
I'm just curious, how many kids didn't get in based on the lottery?
No, everybody
Everyone
got
did
in.
get in.
Everybody
And
got
actually,
in.
there was only one person that was on the waiting list, but they signed up for their second choice.
Okay.
But they put themselves on the waiting list in case whatever it is they wanted opened up.
And actually, they're no longer on it.
Oh,
We just
there
were
you
able
go.
to call them, so.
Yeah.
And is it full now, or are there
Nope,
seats?
there's still slots
There
available.
are
Still slots.
definitely, full-time, half-time is full, but
Okay.
there's still full-time, plenty of full-time spots, 5
Okay.
days, 2 days, or 3 days.
Okay, good, that's good to know. So I think people get panicked when they hear there's a lottery
Well,
and.
it is, and this is the third year we've done it, third or fourth?
think it's the third.
Third year. The first year, there was a wait list, and, but even so, throughout the summer, families move, they
Sure.
come, plans change, so we were able to accommodate most. Last year, I think towards the end of the summer, we really didn't have a wait list, but then families move in, and again, plans change, so we had
Well,
a
I think,
couple
and a lot of
families.
people aren't thinking about that, in denial, like I might have been.
And then all of a
I don't
sudden,
have to plan
there it is,
now,
there's a
but-
There has to be
Reality.
time, huh?
Yeah. And, there were some inquiries, so, for example, now preschool children can come to the, before and after school program.
Right.
But when the K and 1 leave, the question was raised, okay, are you still having a before and after school program? And we are having a before and after school program. In fact, they put a sign-up sheet and said, sort of Monday through Friday, sort of check off, what days you think you need it. And we were thinking that we would end it at 4:30. Because, it's a long day for preschool if you come at 7 in the morning. But you know what? The majority of people put 6 next to it. So that just tells you that there's a lot of working families out there that really do need it. So we're gonna offer, it till 6 o'clock. And, there were there 10 or 11 people, I think, that signed up, And that could grow, obviously, but at least
well, and then that doesn't include the families that are returning.
currently, yeah.
Currently in pre-K, and they currently use the program, so there probably could be about 20 children before and after.
And then the other thing is, then of course vacations become a problem for people, right? So, so we're just like we do at Pembroke now, we don't offer a Christmas, holiday, winter holiday, care, but we do offer a camp on February and April, and we will do that for the preschool as well. So, whatever services are gonna be provided at Pembroke are pretty much gonna be
So why
provided
haven't
for
we ever done
preschool.
the winter? Is it just because
I
it's
don't
hard
know,
to-
I think it's
think
just hard,
staff is
staff
away.
is away,
Yeah,
so
so it's hard to get
it
somebody to
is hard
staff it.
to, yeah.
And I think people then, a lot of people take vacation that time. Families use their vacation time then, so I don't think you'd have the interest.
So those are some things that because of the need, we have.
Well, and it's nice too that the kids stay in one facility,
Yes.
you know, that they don't get picked up.
How many came out for the lottery? What was the kind of the final
Oh, my
tally, for
goodness.
lack of a better word?
Let's see, maybe about 40?
Yeah.
About 40?
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, the cafeteria was, pretty full.
So what's the expectation on returning beyond those 40? What,
Yeah.
assuming everyone comes that signed up a couple days ago, what's sort of the expectation of a total number?
Well, it's always tricky, and this is where, when I talk with Joan, it's extraordinarily difficult because you can come 5 full days, and so that's one person.
Right.
Or you could come Tuesday, Thursday, and Monday, Wednesday, Friday, so that's 2 people. So when we're looking at open spots, it depends, Joan's always like, well, how many? I can't tell you.
Right.
It just depends on how many people take those spots. I guess that's that's the best way to say it, so.
But they're all full 5 days a week, but they're not necessarily the same kids 5 days a
Right.
week.
Right, exactly.
From I'm just curious, looking at the enrollment summary, whatever, in
Yes.
terms of this definition, how does it relate to the 90
Well,
on October
it is,
14?
we just,
It's by kid. So if a kid goes 2 days a week, they're counted as a kid. If they go 3 days a week, they're counted as the same.
So there are 90 bodies.
Correct.
Not to put it that way, but
and it is kind of looking at an average, just
Kid, sorry.
children, when we're looking in September, generally how many, because, and that's what we have to look at. It's very difficult to look at it now, because it changes. It really just is very fluid until September, and then it tends to be more fixed. So, I tend to look at in September where we are, and it's generally, 98, 95, 98, 100, somewhere around there. So.
I'm personally related to the preschool lottery this year, and we didn't wind up doing it. Obviously, a conversation for as we go on. I think the preschool world has gotten very advanced, very savvy, very customer servicey. We were essentially, recruited is a very strong word, but we went to a bunch of places and we got a letter back saying, thanks for your visit. Here are a couple of answers that we got. I think my experience at Pearly, that wasn't there, and I know it's a different model and everything like that, but I think there's an opportunity to become that sort of I don't want to call it a business, but that's sort of an entity where it's sort of proactively
Reaches out.
reaching out and following up.
families.
And,
Part of something
that's
a
so
director
interesting
can
that you
do.
bring that up, because when I looked at the brochure, I thought, they're not selling to me. That
And we talked about that, we really.
We've never
don't-
had to sell, but
it's really interesting,
that's
but I know
why
what you're talking
having
about.
a
People sell
director
to you.
with designated
Yeah.
time to
Right.
do it is essential.
if nothing else, the website was last updated in 2013
Website for
for the
preschool?
preschool.
Again, the
I know obviously projects in
You have a big job.
in
on my
process.
list.
But it is, it's as a potential parent, it's one of those, well, the website's not, like, it's one of those,
Right.
it's the flags, which
Yeah.
were raised, and,
Yeah. There's opportunities ahead, I'm sure. I mean, I know it was many, many years ago, but when I was looking around for preschools, but yeah, I asked somebody at the Pearly preschool, so why should my children come here? What are the benefits? What would we love about this preschool? And, the response was, well, you don't have to come here. And I'm like, okay.
And I don't think I will.
They're not there anymore.
I think
Right,
so.
I'm sure, no, this is many, many years ago. I know you've advanced and everything, but yeah, I hear what you're saying, though.
we-
You
we're
want somebody
somewhere
to
in
say,
between
oh, this and that,
Don't you
this is
think-
how your child could
Don't you
benefit.
think, I think when my kids went
This
to
is-
private preschools, they didn't have that opportunity. They have it now in my community, but you're taught by DESE certified teachers. They participate in all this professional development, but as Margaret said, they were beating down the door to come. We didn't have to advertise before, right? So it's just because we opened up a slot,
Right.
another day,
Now
a
we
full
have-
day.
now-
We could just share more what families do love about the Pearly
That's right.
preschool, and I
You're
know
right.
that
I
they
mean,
do,
we-
because I've heard
yeah,
from a lot of people,
testimonials.
and I've
Yeah,
been,
my
Yeah.
kids went, I loved it.
Yeah.
right,
even just
right.
even just you're offering a premium product. They're all certified
Right.
teachers,
Right.
not regular preschool teachers. I think that is a huge advantage that I don't think anyone could have any idea that that's actually the case.
Well, and I will be honest, and I mentioned this to Carol the other day. Honestly, sometimes I feel like I go the opposite. I try not. I don't want to, because I don't want to pull business away from pre-K. It's very, very sensitive. If we offer something that we're taking business from local, private preschools. So, for instance, when we do the screening, I do ask, can you just put out the information, because that is a service open to everybody, regardless if you come or not. So, I'm not asking, it's nothing about the lottery or next year, just this is the service we're offering, and they put the information in the library. But I really actually have tried not to be
So Margaret, the screening that we do the screening because we're the public school
correct
in
Right.
town,
Correct.
so that's
Right, so
where
you
it's
asked a
held.
question like, why did they do it if
Yeah.
you weren't necessarily gonna come? And
We offer it to families that are in private preschool, they'll send children over to us because that is our job. I mean, that is why we are in business. We are in business to make sure that every child in the community
screened.
their needs are met. So you could have a child, have your child go to a private preschool, send them over for a screening, and let's just suppose, we notice maybe that's developmentally not where we would want to see a child at this age, so, come back, maybe speech and language or OT or that sort of thing. And so it just but you don't have to come to our preschool, it just allows us to see who eventually will be in our school, because that child, no doubt, would be with us for kindergarten.
some
So
point, right.
it gives us kind of that, advanced heads up.
yeah. So that makes sense. It is a somewhat different concept.
so maybe,
Right.
Joan, if you
Public
just talk
preschool.
about the preschool tuition increase then.
So again, but we can certainly update the website, and just make it more user-friendly, but it is that fine line.
I know, times are changing
makes
though, but
sense.
like you said, we never had to do it before, but I think just to remain competitive, we should just check out,
Yeah.
and just try to maybe,
Reach
Look
out
more.
a little more.
yeah.
I mean,
Because I think you had trouble, your questions early on, Michael, had something to do with, if I didn't sort of see it or know,
Right.
I was on the
if I
school
wasn't in this
committee.
position, I would have
Yeah,
known.
yeah, how
Orientation.
would
Yeah.
how would you know in the community that, the preschool existed and what we offered? So I think that's something that to put on, it's sort of this whole theme of public relations, communication. It doesn't have to be a hard sell.
Right.
Especially if we don't need to hard sell it, but it should definitely be a place where all the information is available at the fingertips, readily available, and that there's a liaison who's not communicating, you don't have to come. We would love you to come, and this is what we think we could do for your child.
We've, and this might segue a little bit to what Joan was,
We're gonna chat
I think,
about the
gonna
fee.
talk about. But if we are looking at this as a revenue generating
Mm-hmm.
opportunity, it seems to me like, I don't want to put anyone out of business certainly, but
No.
we need to balance our budget.
Right.
Yeah.
And if there's an opportunity here, it seems like we have the infrastructure, we have everything in place, why not actually use it?
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Understood. So yes, why
Okay,
don't we talk about,
So I included a memo in your packet which describes the program, how many classes there are, but specifically asks for a tuition increase of 3% across the program, whether they're half-day or full-day. There has not been an increase since I've been here, so that's 3 years now. We believe the last one was
I
4
think
years
4
ago.
years ago.
So,
Do you remember what that increase was?
4%?
It was 4% 4 years ago?
And why didn't you decide on 3%? Where did that come from?
we talked about 5%.
We talked about 5.
And we kind of, that was last week. And we kind of thought that it might be a little bit too much for some parents, so we thought we'd go incrementally.
Michael actually helped us out a lot because he's
Yeah.
been doing this sort of surveying, right?
Say
So
about
he
every
was
preschool
able
in the
to sort of give us, sort of comparisons to even, local. And I mean, we do want to generate revenue. We want to be able to support our programs, but we also want to do it in a competitive manner that doesn't price ourselves out of the market.
Right.
So when we sat there and said, all right, 5%, ooh, that kind of feels like per month, that's a little more than a little bump. So then we said, well, let's look at 3, and that's where we felt a little more comfortable. So that's why
And
we.
that was
and
also
then-
looking at his numbers?
Yeah,
that he-
and within his numbers. And then the other thing, we looked at the numbers also for daycare, which was also very helpful because Michael, helped us with that as well. And we also wanted to give ourselves a little room to grow. So if you do 3, and then in 2 years you come back and say 2, or another 3, it allows people to sort of, if we go to 5, and then it's, you know, it's on the edge, and then we, you know, it's kind of like, what's the tipping point?
Sure.
Right, what's the tipping point? So that's where we arrived at, that's how we arrived at 3.
Are the teachers who teach in the preschool, union
Yes, they are.
contract? So they're part of our contract?
Yes.
So they're gonna have their step and
That's
all
right,
that
because,
stuff?
yes,
Okay.
they're all below the 11th year. Amanda's the most senior, and what do we say, 7?
Okay.
Most are- Most are two
One-
two
one
and
year.
3.
One year, yeah.
Yeah, 1 or 2 years.
What are those percentages, you know, when we go, each year, you know, you get a step and scale increase, right?
It
Depends on the
depends
step.
on the step.
It depends, okay. Cause I just think the increase, it makes sense to me that it should cover what the cost of the faculty in the program is, and if the faculty cost rises every
You
year.
mean in the raise,
Yeah, at least. I mean, you know, like, any business has
I know.
expenses,
I know.
and so, that's
Yeah.
kinda like the downfall of the
Well, I
preschool
think we
being
could look at that, whether or
affiliated
not
with the
that
public
covers it.
school system. If you're a private preschool, you choose whatever your criteria are for giving
Mm-hmm.
raises to your staff, right? But you get to decide. We are obligated by a contract.
Yes.
So I just think that perhaps needs to weigh in to when we think about we're increasing, if our costs are increasing each year, we, you know, hopefully have loyal faculty.
The preschool program, was, actually okay. We added those positions on for next year's budget is what
Right.
made it so tight. It's always covered, even when we had 3 long, time teachers here that had hefty salaries, it covered it, fine. We pushed it by putting those other salaries on it this year.
Remember, we had the partial of the
Sure.
nurse and
Yes,
the
yes,
custodian.
yes.
That's why it's
Yeah.
tight. Although adding this class will create more revenue for
Okay.
us, and the cost, besides a teacher and aide, won't increase anything.
Right.
So,
Can I just ask why the half-day, schedule is not quite, it's less than half of the full-day schedule?
I don't think they go a full half-day. The
They
time
go to
of the-
11, right?
30.
11:30.
Okay, all right. So it's a matter of time, hourly
Yeah.
services, okay.
I have a couple of questions on this one. If we are everyone in the lottery from the other day has a spot before we're adding a class, correct? Is that the idea, or does the lottery assume?
The lottery assumes
Lottery assumes.
that we're adding the class.
Okay.
I mean,
okay.
they're still, as Margaret said, full-time.
Right.
What was, you know, it's interesting because years ago, before we went to full-day K,
Mhm.
and right around the years just after we went to full-day K, there was always a great interest in town for half-days. We could fill before and be morning and afternoon spaces, and it was half-day kindergarten. But when we went to full-day kindergarten,
That was such a great
trend-
world.
That trend started to change.
Right.
Right, and so now all of a sudden it was like, wow, you know, we don't even have enough people to fill a halftime class because everybody's kind of going on and it's just so interesting, for the first time this year, people came in and still most people wanted full day, but a lot more than we anticipated wanted half day.
Well, I asked, just, again, because what we do, we put up the charts of the available slots. So we go through and all the returning children, we put them into the classes, and then we see how many available spots are left, and then that is our chart. So it's not by teacher, it's, you know, you're signing up for a program and not a
By
teacher.
day,
Right.
yeah.
So the half day, there were like, you know, nine, Monday through Friday. So I said, just, you know, show of hands, who wants half-time? Hands going
We're
all
like,
over. I'm like,
oh,
"What?
well,
That's
we
never
might not be able to
happened."
accommodate all of you.
Never
But-
happened.
So then people got a little anxious about and it was interesting because the first 10 people, 11 people that got their name pulled right to the half day. It was
Wow,
so
it was perfect,
interesting.
But it was perfect, except
Yeah.
this one family she signed up for 3 half days, but wanted 2. But there, you know, at that time, there wasn't any, but she was the only, it was like every family got what they wanted.
Wow.
Wow.
It was perfect.
It was
I
funny.
hope you have many years where that repeats.
Me too.
The only issue I have with the raising the price of the 3% is, and again, it comes from my experience, at the orientation, the info session, you were given a price, and I think it's a little disingenuous to say when you come to the lottery, oh, by the way, we're raising the price.
Well, that's why we did put in there subject to
Subject
change.
I mean, the problem is,
Yes.
the problem was timing, Michael. That was the problem.
I understand.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know. It feels a little
Well, you could,
uncomfortable.
next year, just.
And prices can change at any time. I mean,
Yeah.
I get that, but it feels a little,
Yeah.
a little
And
bit.
honestly, we agree, Michael.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's, it, yeah, if 6 months ago would have been the time, but, you know, when we're really looking at the budget and when I am saying, you know, it's been 4 years. Prices have not gone up.
No
extended
one
pay.
sort
I
of
think
went,
it's a perfect
you know,
opportunity,
they,
though, to start talking about what's going on in this town. I mean, right when kids are coming into preschool and you're saying, okay, we'd love to tell you how much the tuition for preschool is gonna be, but we haven't yet gotten our school budget from the town, and we don't know if we're going to have to raise prices over last year. I can tell you what last year's tuition was, but until we've gone through, I mean, having been now through this 3 years and
again,
through the
you know,
contract negotiation process, we are, and I just don't think the general public is clued in to what a challenging, difficult, and heart-wrenching process this is. And
Well, and I mean, I guess
It
for
should
my
be.
part of it comes back again to, you know, we don't see this as a business. We see this as school, you know.
but that's why I feel like
Right,
it's an
so-
opportunity to share. You know what? You're coming to public school.
Well, I'm just
You live in
saying,
a
so I'm
community.
guess what I'm saying is that it never occurred to me to talk about
Oh, sure.
tuition because I'm looking at it as,
Sure.
this is our pre-K. Again, our reason for being is to provide a service to children in town. And so, and I know it is a business, but that is not, you know, that is not our primary reason. You know, we're here as teachers teaching.
And I
to
agree.
reach out and support
I
students,
absolutely
providing the
agree, but I
support for
also
children, so.
just, again, my experience sitting on this board now is that in general, it's so easy to live in a community and if politics isn't your thing, you just want to tune this out. But school is important generally to parents and what's happening in schools is important. And I do think the more the community is involved, we were just talking about this before the meeting, the more we are involved in the boards in town and the more we are aware of how these processes work and make our voices heard, the perhaps the processes that we go through now that are so difficult might become easier. And I think parents should know rather than, and because I really think like it's one of those things, if it's not in your face, it's very easy to choose not to think about it.
yeah, and people don't know about it.
And
so
they don't know
so
about
they
it.
don't know to be concerned about it.
Right. Like you can't be concerned about, and usually when you find out about it is like you were even saying, you know, we made all these decisions about the Pembroke transition and people are voicing concern at the PTA meeting and you're like, but we made that decision 3 months ago. We're not having that discussion now. Well, they didn't know you made the decision.
Right, exactly.
So it's an opportunity, I think as sad as it is, we have to keep educating the public.
You're
And a
right.
great time you have a captive audience.
Right.
They're looking for the best things for their children. They're very invested. And, oh, by the way, we want to give you the best preschool. And I bet you want Georgetown to give you the best schooling opportunity. Well, here's what you need to know. The only way we can do that is if we hear your voice, if your town, the people who are running your town, hear your voice, hear what you want, here's some of what are the things we have to deal with every year, like here we are, it's March, we don't know what our budget's gonna be, we have to sign a contract with our teachers, we don't know what we can do, we're waiting on the state, like, start turning people's ear to that, so that maybe they will get involved earlier in their,
Yeah, and that would have been in February.
yeah.
That would have been the time to say, you know, again, this is our brochure, but, right, we don't know what's going to happen, so, and that decision will be made in the next couple months, so, you know, and next year, trust me, we'll.
Well, we're all
Well, the
learning too, I mean,
preparation.
it's all.
Yeah, I think it was, because we discussed this, like, okay, so do we miss the opportunity this year, or do we say, because what really felt disingenuous would be, we gave you this brochure, We allowed you to become part of the lottery. And then, next year, right before you have to start paying, we say, oh, by the way, there was an increase. That's why we determined that it was much better to say at the lottery.
Yes.
Because it's kind of like, well, if that's going to be a problem for you, then maybe you don't want to do it, or maybe you want to talk to us about it. And I can tell you that Margaret was very clear, and people didn't go, that, in fact, people
So-
were
so
so
at the
anxious that
lottery,
they,
you
when
s-
they were going to be,
At
we
the
said
lottery,
that
you
at the lottery.
Decided, again, because knowing that, because we had been talking about it, but then decided we can't have people come, and then, so right before, when I'm talking about the process of writing your name, and then I said, I wanna let you know that we have proposed.
Yes, we didn't say we were
committee-
doing it, we said we were proposed it,
Proposing.
and we were going to be discussing it at the school committee meeting.
And you
on
gave
the
them the
12th.
3%.
I said
And we said
3%,
3%.
and we'll know, after the meeting, so.
But if we waited until you approved it and didn't say anything, then we were gonna,
No,
I
think
think
it's
we're
great
gonna
that you
make the
said
problem
something.
worse.
Yes,
No,
absolutely.
in that sense, I agree. I think it's hard, and I recognize it not being a business from your perspective. Absolutely understand it. I think the challenge is you are in a realm of businesses, of
Yeah,
100
right.
other preschools who are,
That's right.
And it's
Right.
not a required
yeah.
subject.
And so here, we're shopping for the Pearly program or for the Early Childhood School of Georgetown program, kind of apples to apples comparison, and then suddenly yours changes. It's a little uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It is,
And,
yeah,
and it's,
it is.
yes, it's uncomfortable.
But people, if they are uncomfortable in the reality, then they know that they don't have to come. But I have to tell you, everyone had their check written out in their hand.
Oh my
I mean, it wasn't like, oh gee, I'm thinking about this, I think maybe I'd like to wait. I mean, people were,
I understand that. I am going to turn that around to say you told them and then had a lottery 10 minutes later, and it's a little bit of, I mean, I decided that I'm coming to Pearly. I guess it's going to cost 3% more this year. I don't really have a choice.
Okay.
It's not necessarily people having a chance to make that decision. It's we decided Pearly,
Yeah.
and it's going to be 3% more. And it's not, I mean, it's $220. It's not a huge number, but it is.
so, you can all decide not to increase it. I mean, that's why we're bringing it to you. But in our world, we feel that it's a fair increase. It's consistent with what other groups are doing. It's not out of line. We are looking at what we need to generate for revenue next year in order to meet the expenses in our projection, and that's why we're recommending it to you. But certainly hear the concerns, and,
think we
what
should
will
vote
be,
on it.
will be, and we will work it out, whatever way we have to work it out.
Did you want to make a motion?
Sure.
You can do
So I'd like
that.
to make a motion that we vote to approve the proposed 3% increase for the preschool program for the school year 2015-2016 as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, any discussion? Any discussion? Sorry.
What did you do?
Did
Did we get a first? Did we get
You got a first
I got-
and a second,
Got a first and a second, and then you asked for discussion.
and there wasn't
we-
any, so now you can vote.
So now we
Okay.
can vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yeah, opposed?
Any
No.
opposed?
No.
So it's 3-1.
Okay.
So who is taking the notes since Laura's not here?
She's
Laura.
going to do
Oh,
the
Laura's
next
gonna do them from the tape, okay.
I didn't say yes or no yet.
one. No, I didn't think you
You're
did.
there,
Oh,
you're
no.
thinking.
Oh, so you're
Sorry, Barbie,
thinking.
you read that
That's
Sorry,
okay.
why- I thought I missed it, because, no, but who seconded? I made the motion, you seconded.
Pam
I
seconded.
did, okay.
Yeah.
So,
And it'll be 2-2.
That's right,
if you voted, yeah.
that's right. Right, because you don't have your fifth, your
Right.
tiebreaker.
Or you could abstain, I
Or
understand.
you- Abstain, meaning
Well, if it's
usually
2 to
you
2,
need.
it fails, right? Is
It's
that
2
what
to
it
2,
is?
it fails, that's right.
Okay.
Has to be a majority.
Okay. Aye.
So,
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So Amanda, I think you don't have to stay anymore unless you have any questions
Yes.
for Amanda. But,
Thank you for
welcome
coming.
and thank you for stepping into this and and doing it. It'll be a job, but you're
Yep.
gonna be up for the task. So
Be
we're
great.
really
Be great,
excited to
yeah.
have you on board.
Good luck.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck with the babies.
Yeah, they're so cute. So I guess maybe just go back to the top of yours, Joan, and
Right.
the.
So
Still
we
kind of
just
out of
raised
order,
re-
sorry.
We just raised revenue and now we
We're
wanna
gonna
increase the
spend more money.
increase the substitute rate.
I know, I thought that was interesting. I see the rationale though.
We're
Yeah.
having a very,
Yeah.
you can ask Margaret, we're having a very difficult time, especially finding substitute paraprofessionals.
Mm-hmm.
So when we started to look at what people get paid, and when I was talking to Tricia, in my office, Tricia, about it, she says it's really strange that the substitute paraprofessionals get paid $8 an hour, but the substitute cafeteria workers get paid $9 an hour. So,
Interesting.
very interesting. So,
I've been here 8 years. Substitutes have never really come up for a topic. I mean, they're an issue. Every day we deal with it, but it's never come before the committee to change the substitute rate.
Now, when you do a long-term sub, do they get paid differently?
yes.
But that's something we should talk about too, because, different places do that differently. Some will say, if you become a long-term sub, then you get paid $90 a day from the minute you take the job. Some will say you get paid bachelor step and scale the minute you take the job, because you are responsible for the classroom. I mean, it's not like, so, but how we do it is, for the first 10 days, you get $70 a day. For the second 10 days, you get $80 a day. And then you go on bachelor step and scale. You might have a master's with 5 years experience, but you don't go there. You go to bachelor's step one,
Right.
and down you go. But you gotta work 21 days before you
Right.
get to that place. I don't know what the history is of why it was what it was, but it is what it is, and, we sometimes do have trouble getting people to do long-term substitute positions because,
They don't get that money.
Yeah,
that they-
but that's not on the list to talk about today, right?
No,
So I'm just curious, what's the impact of this on our budget?
well, I thought of that as I was sitting here, and that was what I was doing on my phone. So I just averaged what we spend on substitutes and got it down to how many substitute days we pay. And it would be about $6,425 if we use the same number of subs.
Right, which
That
that's.
we don't know.
And again, that's also snow and ice,
But what I
right?
know is, I've been watching
to the
Margaret
song.
across the hall with preschool kids or students that have to have a paraprofessional with them according to their IEP or whatever, and panic because there's
We can't get
nobody.
anyone.
We can't get anybody. Why would they come for $8 an hour? They're not going to. They can go down the street and work at a Burger King for more money than that. And the we
It's
don't
not
have
even
to.
minimum wage anymore.
We don't have to follow the minimum wage guidelines of that $10. It's
Yeah.
the $10 municipalities are exempt from that. We have our own to follow, but if you can't attract anybody, we're in violation of the students' IEPs.
Yeah.
So, and it's a problem in every, it is a problem in every district. In Beverly, we went to, if you're a sub, you're a sub. We don't care what position you're in, you get paid the $80, we paid $80 a day.
Wow.
Sub pair, because people would say, well, I'm gonna hold out and see if I get called for a sub teacher.
Sure,
And they substitute in other communities.
sure.
So they won't come to Georgetown sometimes because they can go to these other districts for,
More money.
more money.
And even in our district, we have substitutes that want to be teacher subs, but not para subs. So
I'll
if
come
I
in,
take
but you have
a
to pay me
sub,
at the
but it's
teacher
like-
sub rate.
it's,
Right.
You know, a sub was called, but it's not a teacher position. So,
So even though it most likely will have an impact to our budget, we have to be able to operate, so I think that
Well, I think this falls in, I think this falls particularly with the pairs that we have a legal obligation that we have to meet, and that we could find ourselves in trouble if we're not meeting it, so. To
It's
me,
pretty
it sounds,
modest.
yeah.
Change too, it's not
No.
a huge number.
But it,
I mean,
considering
no,
where we are in the
everything
budget,
matters.
it's bad, but
Every penny, every penny is.
Significant, but it's necessary.
But it would be significant to somebody who took the job. It's, if it's 2
Yeah.
hours, $2
Yeah.
more an hour, I mean,
Yeah.
that's significant.
Can we, do them together, or do they
Yes,
have to be
I think
separate?
you could do them together.
Chair will entertain a motion to increase the daily rate for a substitute teacher from $70 per day to $75 per day, and increase substitute paraprofessional hourly rate from $8 per hour to $10 per hour as presented.
So moved. Second.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
The next thing I had, it's our budget too. It's the award of the school bus transportation contract. I did contact the bus company to let them know that we wouldn't be using the 7 buses, which was the way the original spec was written, although we did have in there that we could reduce it. So they're fine with that, and they're ready to sign the contract as soon as the school committee approves it. And I will say, today out on the listserv, there was questions going around about what people are paying for increases for their bus contracts and what their daily rate is on their buses. And some people are only paying like 3%, 4%. Ours was 25% increase, but remember, we were very low for the last 3 years. But they were all paying more than the $2.95 a day, which I thought was fascinating. So their increases were smaller, but we were so low. We were so low because he underbid last time.
Underbid everybody.
We saved, the first year I got here, we had budgeted like 30,000 more in that line.
That's
And
right.
then the bus bids came in so low, but
And then if we had been with, if First Student had continued to be, the increase over 3 years would have been
I
much
remember
more
that.
significant.
What about the rates though with the athletic
It did
buses?
go up. I talked to Chris. We're probably gonna have to find another $4,000 in his budget.
But they were high last year, they were
He's getting
high
some more
these
user
last.
fees and, you know.
What?
He's also
Chris is
creating
getting more
sports, though.
user, yeah.
More trips. Right.
Yeah, well, it's true. But he's hoping it covers, he's thinking it covers that. so.
But are they still high in comparison to
I
others?
don't know. I haven't-
I don't think they're
they are.
high in comparison to others.
I think it seemed
The wait
high.
time seemed high.
The wait time is higher.
Right. I will say that they've been very good. Chris has called me a few times about challenging the bills, and every time I've called, they've made adjustments on the bills. So they say they're waiting for, soccer or something, and they don't wait. They go do something else, and then he was getting some bills for that, and they've been great about correcting the bills, and he's managed it. This is unfortunate that it has to go up a little bit more again, but then that will stay the same. The 325 and the 55 stays the same through the life of the contract. So it won't change again for 4 years for him. So,
I mean, field trips, buses, it's just so hard. And no matter, even any bus company, you pay a lot of money for field trips and use of the bus.
Well, we only got one bid anyway.
I know, we did.
Yeah,
Well, we're just
right,
too
right.
small for
Yeah.
most of the bigger companies to kind of care about us.
I like the buses though.
I have to say, we have
Buses are
not.
clean.
No,
I
like
haven't
today,
had
for
issues.
example, I'm sure Alana will talk, when she talks about subcommittee, about the safety committee. But, so today, Cindy came, she comes regularly, but we had her safety supervisor, Jimmy, came. And he participated in the discussion about.
It was really nice to have him.
It
at
was
that
really
meeting.
nice to have him, and they didn't have to come and
Right.
participate, and so we haven't had any issues.
No.
And when the principals have contacted, Cindy about an issue of behavior issues on the bus or something, she's right there to solve the problem.
Oh, good.
Yeah, it's not been a bad.
Customer service is
Yeah,
good.
it's not
There's
been a
been
bad
cameras in the
transition.
Audio.
Camera on every
I'm always
bus.
surprised. I'm like, this is a
Yep.
bus company? I don't
No,
think
they-
I don't
no,
think
they-
bus companies cared about us as much when I was riding to
I
school.
think they do. They're very responsive. And if they have a question, like they're challenged by all the snow and everything at Pembroke, and it's tricky at best anyway. And never mind all the elements that have been added. So when they have struggles and challenges, they'll call us right away and say, "Carol, can you help us?" Or "Margaret, can you help
I
us?"
think
And
they are looking forward
know,
to being at the new
so I
school.
have to say, I
Oh,
think
I'm
that
sure.
they're we haven't had any
Sure they
problems.
are.
And we think they came in with a fair price.
So are we approving this for the total 3, we don't have to go through each
No, you can
individual
do
year?
it
The
for the
8-10?
3 years for the 8-10.
Okay, so the chair will entertain a motion to approve the school bus transportation contract for the next 3 years totaling $810,000 as presented.
With NRT bus.
Oh yeah, with North Reading Transportation.
Yes. So moved.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
And then when we have the return of funds?
Right, so in December, the school committee voted to return the $25,000 that was allocated through a warrant article for us to do a study of technology,
Whether we needed a technology director.
right? The town accountant called the other day and said that, she asked to see the minutes so that she could, do her books correctly. And when she got the minutes, she said that our original vote said from our operating budget, so that we were gonna return 25,000 to the town from our operating budget rather than from the article. So it has to be revoted, because she needs the minutes for her
So
documentation.
did we write the,
You have the vote, you have the
I have
motion
the
in
motion,
there.
right, okay.
Yeah.
The chair will entertain a motion to return $25,000 to the town of Georgetown for fund not expended from the capital projects, STM Article 3, A42142, Information Technology, for the cost of hiring an outside technology consultant, as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now that did you wanna talk about the finance meeting last night at all? Now that we're talking about
well, the only,
money?
well, maybe we could, do you wanna, are we gonna table the faculty daycare? Yeah, so we're still in the process of collecting information on it. Joan talked to the woman in Ipswich, we're talking to people who actually run them, and getting information on, qualifications of teachers, what do you pay, and all this. So we're not quite there yet.
I'm
So,
interested to
yeah,
see
so
that.
we can do it for you on the 26th, because if we're gonna do it, we wanna be able to get the word out to teachers, as soon as possible as well. So we just need a little bit more time, so we're gonna pass over that, if that's okay with you.
Yep.
And then the full day kindergarten grant, that just was, I think, information that, that the state, as part of Governor Baker, well, I shouldn't say, the governor's budget, I don't know if I fair to qualify it as the state, but the governor's budget, eliminated the full day kindergarten grants. And, for us, that was to pay for the 5 aides, and it's $56,000. So if we choose to continue to fund those aides, we need to find another funding source for them. One of the things we were thinking about is at least all or part of that could come out of the additional revenue that we generate, but we have to we have to see what kind of revenue we can talk about, because remember, we don't wanna be in a position where, as those salaries that are in those revolving accounts increase, we end up being $4,000 different like we are right now, which is not a place we can be for a long time. So we have to make a hard decision, when we start talking, are we going to include them in the budget? And then that would mean that $56,000 of something else, or we keep 3, we haven't had that conversation
The
yet.
kindergarten aides,
Yes.
these are different from the paraprofessionals that we have to meet. We're not obligated by any law or contract or anything to have aides in kindergarten classes. I'm trying,
Well, there used to be, guidelines, and to some extent, I don't think it was ever regulation, but the rule of thumb was if you had more than 15 students in a class, then you should have a paraprofessional, there.
so that was a guideline.
I think what's gonna happen now is, because from what I'm hearing from my superintendent colleagues, is there's a lot of upset about this. This is a major hit to communities. In fact, I'm gathering that information now, sort of what is the impact of this in the North Shore, in our North Shore districts, because we're gonna talk to our legislators on the 27th when we have our legislative luncheon, and that's an example of a tangible table
Sure.
that we wanna share with them. This is the impact for us. But I was just talking to Tom Scott, who's the statewide, MASS, executive director, and he said, if you want to focus on something, he said, we're hearing this statewide. Districts are really angry about the full day kindergarten grant being pulled. So, if you, like we told
Yes.
the FinCom last night, if you had, in Georgetown, if we had 20, the increase per student at $30,000, and then the grant takes away 56. So just in the budget Governor Baker put in alone, you know, we were losers in terms of, you know, funding, so.
Not doing anything good for the schools. Let's
Right.
I
I would
can't
use a
imagine
harsher
a
word,
kindergarten
but-
classroom without an aide.
Well,
I mean, I
so,
used to
yeah.
spend, you know, a lot of time volunteering in kindergarten classrooms, learning from the teachers how to, you know.
And I think you
A
hit
lot.
the nail on the
But
head.
I
There were
just
years ago when
can't picture
volunteers
it.
were available to come in to the classrooms and work with, you know, the teachers, and they had the time and they came in regularly. What we're finding is a lot of people don't have as much time to volunteer now because maybe they're working or, you know, so that's one of the things we have noticed.
So if a kindergarten teacher doesn't have an aide and doesn't have volunteers, that's gonna be really, really hard.
Mhm. And, you know,
For
as I,
them.
so it is again,
I mean,
it-
they'll have
Because the
beautiful
aide would help,
classrooms,
like, you know, get their winter clothes on.
Oh, yeah.
and-
Well, and
Winter's
there's a lot of
terrible.
small group,
Yeah,
you know,
it's-
there's,
it's gotta be
and that
totally
too.
different.
well, kindergarten is
clothes and
totally
every-
different
it's
than
tot-
it
it's-
used to be too.
They're-
So it just adds one more sort of dilemma to us in terms of the overall budget picture, but we wanted to make sure you knew about it, that the kindergarten grant was
Well, I'm,
cut.
you know, I just wanna let you know, it's significant. I mean, it makes me
Mhm.
very, I
Yeah.
can't see how
So you can,
this can happen.
don't hesitate to, you know, write or call to your legislators and just say, you
just
know what,
doesn't
there's an
sound right.
impact in Georgetown that's just not right. And, you know, we don't think that, you know, we wanna put pressure on the state with a, you know, what can you do about
I mean,
this?
these are very young kids, and this is a very foundational year, and they have a lot to learn, and now the standards are, I mean, we're asking them to learn more than ever before.
But what I learn when I go to these legislator things, and the more I get
Teach
to
more
know
than
them
ever before.
personally, they just want you to help them, you know, give them the facts and the impacts. It's the stories they remember. Like when I said the other day, you have to think of special ed as snow and ice. You know, they remember that, right? They say, oh, yeah, that makes sense to us, you know,
Something they can relate
because
to.
that's how, you know, so if they can go in another session and with another group of people and say, you know what, it's sort of for districts, it's challenging because there's no stability in funding, right? Because it makes it difficult. They can relate to that story. But they always say, we don't hear from people, and the people who get in their ear tend to be the ones who gets things passed. We sit here in education and we're constantly like, why is that important? Where did that come from? But it got some people that felt strongly about it, got into the ears of the right people, and others didn't, you know, give a contrary argument. So somehow,
But this is
it goes
exactly
through.
what I mean about educating parents about
Right.
how to get things into schools. That it's, you know, you have to
You have to advocate.
you have to advocate. And I think more and more in the kind of world that we live in today, if school's important to you, you have to make the people who are governing know that it's important to you.
So really, kindergarten parents, preschool parents,
yeah,
you know,
right
can
off
be
the bat, to start
calling
tuning
parents
into
like
what's
any
happening.
parents remember.
like, yes,
Well, yeah, we have
Imagine
to.
if our kids were back then. I remember how important those aides were.
yes, exactly.
So that concludes the financial part, but if you wanted to talk briefly about the session last night, we can certainly do that.
Sure, for anyone that wasn't tuning in last night, we had our meeting with the finance committee, which was great that I like how they have just us. Instead of that Saturday, they have all the other departments, then they take the time to listen to us. So we presented to them our 2.61% increase, which was including the half maintenance person that we voted on at the last meeting. And the superintendent did a great job detailing everything in the budget that we were asking for.
Yes, she did.
I think the finance committee was very open and honest with the issues that the town is facing right now. And basically they'll tell us, hopefully, they'll have a better idea by next Wednesday as to how things will go, but we left the meeting with them saying, you most likely will not get what you asked for. So, that was disheartening, but we'll have to wait and see. Anyone wanna add anything?
That was a good summary.
It could've gone better, but
It was a big bummer.
No, I mean, I think. Carol
There was a smiling face in the room.
and the school committee did a really very good, thorough, thoughtful, coherent,
Presentation.
clear job of advocating for all the priorities that we've, taken into account while putting together this budget. And, but then we have to look at the bigger picture of the town, who is also looking at the bigger picture of the state. And it's where everything falls and fits together is yet to be determined.
Yeah, and the unfortunate thing, I think, is that the timing of when the governor formulated his budget, and you can't blame him, for goodness sakes, he walked into a
Right.
mess when he, in terms of a budget deficit. But, it's sort of a month out, from where we would normally be. So we're not alone, and the town's not alone. They're worried, understandably so, about using the governor's numbers if there's not likely to make it at that level. So, what happens if you do that and then you find out that the revenue's not there? So I think, every town is being forced to take a more conservative approach than maybe what will be reality in the end. The problem is, if you have a May town meeting, like many communities do, you have to, if you don't, in the absence of real numbers or real information, fortunately, you have to make decisions based upon that. So that's another thing for those people who are inclined to call their legislators. The one thing you want to ask for is, we understand that it might not be all the way through the process in May. But in the past, what did they call it? They've been they give us a number, but they have a name for it. But it's sort of like, this is the range this is a kind of a real number. As real as we can make it. And it either gets better or worse. But a working number that we think is, that they really predict is probably likely to pass.
Well, like we get,
Yeah.
like
would
the town gives us, okay, this is
would
the
be
number
very-
we'd like you to work on.
Right, but it would be very helpful, because then we're not going in and saying, because it's very different, if we have to go to level funding from this year's budget, we're cutting $340,000 from this budget, in addition to 56,000 if we keep the
Yeah,
aid.
it's close to
$400,000, that's a lot of money.
To cut out of our
I mean,
budget.
if you
It's
figure
huge.
1%
Well, what was
of our.
the
if-
increase of the 2.61 is an increase of five
let's see.
from last year's budget.
It was 320.
320 plus,
$320
320
Then you
plus
added
20,
20.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
So
about
340.
350.
340, 350,
Right,
somewhere in there.
so,
We
so,
don't get
Have to
any
cut
of the
more
new
than-
things, and we cut from what we had last year. If we get,
well, that's the decision you
That's-
make,
yeah.
right? We have to decide what still fits, right? We wouldn't just necessarily say anything that was new doesn't make it, because there may be things that are new that have to be
make it.
done.
they have to be done, right?
So that's what makes it, but if you're talking about cutting $38,000, that's painful enough. If you're talking about cutting $400,000, if 139,000 is 1%. If that's level funding, 1.5% still means we're cutting $130,000 plus the 55. So it's either 200,000 or it's 400,000. Both huge numbers.
Yeah.
Huge numbers.
But I think what Alana was saying earlier is it's so difficult to do these numbers but not have the real numbers to go by. We have the 2.5% we thought we'd work with, and then we brought it in a little more. I mean, you kept it at 2.46, which was
Right,
great.
but you added the 1/2
Right.
position.
But it was still, but we're still being told, oh,
Yeah.
good
They are-
job, but
But
we don't
good,
have
yeah.
it.
I mean,
Why
they're
not
saying
do it
that the
again?
town is, conservatively, the town is $230,000 short with people's requests.
Right.
Now, if they say to everybody, you're all not getting what you wanted, there's a reduction, then obviously we don't need to cut $400,000, because it wouldn't be the school's full responsibility, right? But that's the problem, we don't know what that's gonna look like. That's what Barbie's saying, is after the FinCom sort of,
Right,
looks
so
at
they
everything,
basically
they'll be
said to
able
us,
to
go
say.
back and cut
Yeah, they
your
might-
budget till it's only a 1.5% increase.
Right.
But they could come back and say, sorry, we can't even give you that 1.5% increase, go cut some more. And it's a heart-wrenching process, I find it.
I find it more heart-wrenching when I look in the future, because it
Yeah.
doesn't look like it's getting any better.
Yeah, exactly.
It looks
Yeah,
like the
that's
same.
That's the scary part.
So you can't even say to people, don't worry, there is a light I don't see the
'Cause
light
I
at the
don't-
end of
we
the
don't see a
tunnel
light,
right
yeah.
now.
Well,
That's mine.
it's hard
So
to
that's
think
why the
about.
town really has to, again, regroup and say, well, gee, you know, what do we want this town to be? You know, because, I mean, the FinCom's in a tough spot, you're in a tough spot, the Board of Selectmen's in a tough spot, and the taxpayers are in a tough spot, because, you know, they don't, I mean, many people are feeling they're at their brink, and they are. Yeah, but at the same time, if you don't have some process by which you can raise revenue that doesn't sort of hit the pocketbook of the taxpayer, because you're so dependent in Georgetown on residential property taxes, you know, it's sort of like the perfect storm. Like
92%.
what, you know, how does it work? And you're 92%, yeah. So that's why
last
it's
I
tough.
checked.
You know,
Yeah.
the override helped get you some breathing room as a town, but then even with the modest increases that, you know, have been given, you know, over the last 4 years, you're back to where you were. And so, yeah, I mean, we don't have the answer, but it is a reality, and the town is facing a reality, unless they can figure out another way to either reduce costs without cuts, right? And I mean, cuts mean unemployment issues, right? So it's,
it doesn't even end
it's
up
not,
saving
it's
all that
complicated,
much.
right? It's complicated,
But there needs to be a continual focus on long-term planning.
yeah.
It also ends up just kind of wasting a lot of, I don't want to say wasting time, but a lot of effort goes into putting together the budget and running scenarios. And then for that, you know, okay, that was nice. That doesn't matter. Kind of start over. It becomes an iterative process that takes a lot of all of your
Well,
time.
and
Like it's less efficient than one might hope for.
Right.
Well, and I think what I'm hearing people talk about, it's also sort of discouraging. And I'm sure the FinCom feels it's just as discouraged, and, you know, I mean, nobody's happy about the situation. But I also think, you know, it's really hard to imagine that the overall town budget could realistically grow at no more than 1.5% for the next 5 years, every year. I mean, because contractual obligations are more than that. So what that means is that there's a cut. You know, there's a cut. And you know, I mean, I know people wanna say, you know, keep the salaries and everybody, but, you know, people aren't gonna take zeros too many years in a row, or a 1% raise, you know, it's not even a cost of living raise. So again, it's a dilemma, right? It's a dilemma. But anyway, I think, you know.
But we
that-
did leave the meeting with,
Yeah.
the Board of Selectmen, Gary Fowler was at the meeting, and he thanked the
Yeah.
superintendent for coming in as we did, which I thought, you know, so it shows.
Yeah, I think the
mean, we are so
relationship
thankful
we've
for everything
built
that we've
with the
gotten from the
FinCom
town.
over the years, and the Board of Selectmen, the working relationship we've all had, I mean, that definitely, you know, helps in difficult decisions like that,
Plus.
you know,
It does.
because we all do understand the pain. Yeah, I mean, if we had, I was teasing, if we had a magic money tree, you know, that they planted out back, we wouldn't have a problem, right? But there isn't a magic money tree, so, you know, the town needs to continue to think about ways it's gonna sort of help itself, just like I think that one of the things that we made clear, and I think people appreciated, is, you know, we're trying to be proactive. The conversations we're having about revenue generation, it's not like we're having revenue generation to put it in the bank
Right.
and buy all these luxurious you know,
Right.
I mean, it's
And who knew when
literally.
you went into
it's-
education that you'd be trying
We
to
need
raise
to.
money?
It's
Went
literally
into
to
public
put it into affording the programs we have, not only for a year, but years out, because they're unhealthy when you put sustaining,
Yeah.
recurring, you know, resources on funds that shouldn't be.
Right.
But it's that, or go back to the town, it's that, or reduce programs and services.
Right.
So it really comes down to sort of what does the public want?
Right.
What is the level of service?
And our tax rates increased, and you're
Your tax
saying-
rates increased,
what
and
did
then
they
it, you know,
increase
so if you
for?
start going in, and you, realistically, if you had to cut $340,000, many of the things that were added, you know, when people's taxes were raised, are perhaps gonna be cut, yet people's taxes aren't gonna be
Aren't going
cut
down, yeah.
correspondingly.
Right.
Right, so it's like the perfect storm. And there, you know, right now, we don't know what the answer is. So we're still in a little bit of limbo, but once we know the number, we're gonna have to make some very difficult discussions, if it's gonna be a significant cut like that.
Okay, thank you. We're gonna do subcommittee reports. Budget and finance, I think we Beat that one. Governance, you were supposed to have a meeting tonight, but it got canceled, I think.
Right, yep.
Right. Negotiations, we, are planning on meeting, with the Board of Selectmen to talk about a few things, and we did have a scheduled meeting for next Wednesday, but we did, cancel that, figuring that we would speak with the Board of Selectmen and then set up a meeting after that. Public relations? Did we?
We are meeting on the 25th, March
Okay.
25th.
Okay, and we got all that good stuff about,
And we did meet last week as well.
is that when you talked mostly about
It
the,
was less like also the district, the satisfaction survey
That's
was the other
Right.
big one. So we kind of have a
Yes,
first draft.
we made, a first draft of a district satisfaction survey, and now Michael's gonna take a stab at a second draft, and we'll look at that, and,
Yeah, so our plan would be to
Draft
bring
three,
that
we'll
to the
bring it
committee
to the
when it's
committee.
ready, and
yes.
our hope would be to be able to do it in May.
Yeah.
That would be our hope. And then use the results, toward developing our next 3-year strategic plan. So there'd be some data that would be available in that, because the schools use their data in their school improvement plan. But we've never had like district data, so this would be nice to.
Helpful to build the new, strategic plan.
and the safety committee met today?
We did, we had a lovely meeting this morning, well attended, to discuss the pickup and drop-off procedures at the new Pembroke, and who did we have from the architect's office?
Oh, we had Courtney Southwick.
Courtney, she brought the plans for everyone, and we all got to see how it was designed and be reminded of, and think about what the issues are, what are some of the problems and the safety concerns that we have right now, how are those being mitigated with the plan for the new school.
So was it designed to have a queue?
Yes.
Yes.
It was.
It's designed to have a queue, but we also, one of the decisions I think we made was that kindergarten, the parking lot that is closest to the kindergarten entry to the school will be designated a parent parking lot, and that parents of kindergartners will park in that lot. They won't queue, and they'll pick up the kindergarten students from that door, so the
So
kindergarten.
they'll get out of their car?
Yes,
and
they
go
will
pick
get
up?
out of their car just as they do now.
Yeah.
And that way the kindergarten students don't have to mingle with the older students, and if somebody has
That's good.
older students as well as a kindergarten student, that older child will be allowed to exit through the kindergarten so that they can meet the parent.
We'll have a
because-
number of that, right?
Wow.
We'll,
You know
we'll
what
be
we'll
able
do?
to
We'll put.
tell who has younger siblings.
Yeah.
and-
Yeah,
We'll put, the document
I know
in the
we know,
next, in the next packet, so you can, so you'll be able to see what
See it.
Alana's talking about, cause where she's talking about kindergarten door, there's a sidewalk, and the traffic for the buses is here, and the traffic for the cars is here. So
Right.
there's no
there's no,
traffic.
traffic, it's literally a direct path to
Yeah.
the parking lot.
and
Well, I'll
that
put it
way, you
in
know,
for
parents of kindergartners, they have to get out of their cars, they have to put kids in car seats and stuff, so they're not gonna hold up the queue.
Right.
So it makes, it looks like it's gonna work really nice because of the length of the drive and the loop. We won't have traffic out on Elm Street. Also trying to keep cars off that initial drive in so that I'm not sure what we decided about the signage. We had a lot of discussion, but there is this parking lot so that if somebody comes and they're in an area where we're gonna try to prevent cars from queuing, from standing, they can just pull into the parking area and wait either until the line is moving or get out of your car and go meet your child. And that concern about kids crossing through traffic,
Yeah.
we see that won't have to happen because of the sidewalks and the crosswalks and the way they're placed. So it should, we hope, go much smoother. Probably will take a few weeks, as everybody pointed out. You know, we're all gonna be adjusting, everyone's gonna have to learn.
But that was a big question with the parents, is the
Yes.
pickup
Yeah.
and drop off.
It
But
is a
the
big-
the
it
drop
should-
off is just gonna strictly be pull up like it is now and
Yeah,
and let them out?
pull up, let them out.
The bus company was very happy with, how it was
Yeah.
gonna work for them, and,
Having their safety guy there, I thought was really key, because he looked at it and he was able to say, this looks like other schools, how other schools do it when it goes really well. He kind of was reassuring to us, I thought. Margaret was expressing her concerns and it seemed like he was saying, oh, no, I think it's gonna be okay. So that was nice. Police and fire chiefs were there, so,
And they're always helpful.
Yeah.
Peter Durkee came.
yes,
know, as
Peter
well.
had.
It was a crowd.
He's very interested in that whole parking lot.
Yeah, that's good.
Well, you know, it made sense to invite these other folks because otherwise it sort of becomes sort of this, you know, we all have our opinions and, you know, and that's why I said, well, you know, maybe we need to invite Courtney because it was designed a certain way. The engineers, many engineers designed that. We should probably find out what they were thinking because I do remember the conversation about the reason that the road went out and so far around was to get the cars off of Elm Street. So,
I remember Michelle and Ellie telling us that. The cue was stuck in my head that
yeah.
that's
But,
how we were gonna.
but, you know, there were logistics of it that we have to work out and that we had to work out. But, you know, I think Margaret has some ideas about how, you know, we might still have to have the little, number system because there's still concern about the right kid getting in the right car.
Yeah.
You know, you can't just dismiss, you know, 770 kids and say,
think they're
geez,
going the
figure it
right
out,
places,
everybody,
yeah.
you know? So, we might still be in the situation to do that, but it was just important to get this level of discussion,
But
you
the
know,
other thing
done.
is we're gonna have that staggered release, I think.
Oh, yeah, that was another thing. we
Bus
talked about.
students, students who ride the bus will be released before students who walk or are picked up by their parents. That will allow for the buses to
Get out.
get out of school before we have all that traffic.
Well,
And
how much earlier?
Oh. The bus company needs to get the buses there by, all the buses there by 2:40. And so they're gonna look with Barry about how do we make that work? Cause,
Well, because they won't have to do the Pearly run, they won't have to go to Pearly.
that's right, they don't have to go
run.
to
So
Pearly first.
They felt very confident that they
Yep.
could get all 5
they
buses there.
did.
Plus, there's enough room for 5 buses to be there, which is
At the
also
same
a
time,
major
yeah,
factor that we couldn't accommodate 5 buses right now, the way things are set up, but we'll be able to. So the buses will be there, those kids will load up and
Out
and
they
leave
go.
the premises, and that should make that whole pickup for whoever's not riding a bus go much more smoothly. And we hope, if parents recognize that the buses are leaving sooner, getting kids home sooner,
Maybe they'll ride it.
they may choose, if they have the option, to put their children on the bus to ride home. We're
Yeah, the
hoping-
data we have
hope-
is that 85% of the eligible riders get a pass. Now, that doesn't mean they all ride every day, but so there, you know, there is room on the buses,
Right.
you know, to take more children that are eligible to ride.
I think the community, I'm not sure how many people are aware that Georgetown was given all brand-new buses. So right now, kids are all riding in brand-new buses.
With
Which my-
cameras on the buses.
My daughter says is very nice.
Okay.
And that I think when the operation is going more smoothly through the school, maybe some of the concerns about bus safety may be alleviated and more people will take advantage of the buses. I mean, one of the things I was thinking about this morning is we've built this beautiful LEED certified school, and then we idle our SUVs, our gas guzzling SUVs in front of it. So there's a little disconnect in philosophy there, and we're hoping that people
People are
might.
not gonna buy SUVs?
No, but there's
Guess
gonna
I'm
be,
not gonna
there's
say
gonna
that.
be anti-idling signs up and you're gonna
Yes,
have to
there
turn
is.
your car off.
And preferred parking for,
We have a new anti.
Yeah.
Mike
But,
is
yeah,
getting
do you
them.
realize in new construction in LEED projects, there's actually designated parking spaces in front of the school, preferential parking spaces for people who have
Low
hybrid,
emission
low
cars.
emission cars.
That's what I was just
Really?
saying, yes, we also, that's part of, so if you have,
So Donna Straight
Donna
will have,
will be
Donna
able,
Straight will be able
drives
to
her,
pull
she'll be
right
able to
up.
pull right
Yeah,
into one of those
spots.
preferred parking spots,
that's
so we
funny.
hope that people will take note.
Wow.
And if people park in there, we were laughing today, but people, who, you know, get a big SUV, take a picture of it and send a letter to them saying, this is for low emission vehicle.
Well, we have to be careful though, because
Yeah,
some
yeah.
of those larger SUVs now come as low emission vehicles. I
Yeah,
mean,
well,
they
that's
are,
fine.
so
Yeah,
you
yeah,
have to
that's
check.
gotta be
Yeah,
tough
we
to
were of course
monitor.
kidding, but you know, it was, I think, it was interesting to me, cause
Your
I've
car,
been in,
picture
I've
of your
seen
car
that
on the
in
front.
instructions, there are like 5 spaces and it'll all say, reserved for low emission or hybrid vehicles,
Yeah.
right? Smack in the preferential section, so obviously, that's the message, right?
I
With-
hope it's
with
not
lead-
closer than handicapped spaces
I
are.
don't
No.
think it was.
Right next to the
Right
handicap
next to it.
space.
Wow.
It's
So
just
how many reserve, are you gonna, you're gonna reserve one, obviously, like how many reserve spaces are you gonna have for you and your?
decided actually just assistant principal and principal reserved in the front, then the hybrid car.
We'll all borrow Donna's car when we go over there.
And then there are 3 handicap.
3 handicap.
And then there are visitors.
And then,
Oh, how many visitors?
I think that would
Did
be
she
like
say there were
7 or
12
8.
spots over there? I thought she counted 12.
So yes, but anybody who has kids in the
Okay.
school, who's planning to buy a new
Hybrid.
car, you might wanna look at the low emission
Everybody can
vehicles.
fight
You
for
will
the no
have
emission-
preferred
emission.
parking
Good to
at the
know
new
about.
But
Pembroke.
so when you go up the road and you come on around, there's a parking lot at the top, which will be numbered and teachers will be assigned. There's not enough spaces in that lot to have all of the teachers and staff that need a spot. But the preference would probably be to the people who
Teach
who
on
could
that side
enter
of
the
the
building on that side of the
Yeah.
building. Then there's the middle parking lot is what we're talking about being the parent lot that has the direct sidewalk and no intersection with the traffic. And then there's the, I think 97 spots
In that
that's,
lower
that's in
parking
the,
lot,
like,
yeah.
you know, on the, you know, to the kindergarten, near the kindergarten. Then that would still need to be numbered for the remainder of the staff, but there'd be a lot of parking
A
there
lot of visitor parking
for
there as well.
additional visitor parking. And then after the whole project's done, over down near where the current little extra parking lot is, closer to the fields, there'll be a parking lot there as
Wow.
well. So there should be, I mean, we're looking at the parking that's there now, I mean, I was joking that the police chief could get his whole quota of tickets for the year in one event
At
at the school,
Pembroke.
because
Oh,
Pembroke,
don't give him any
everybody
ideas.
parks like every, but that won't be a
Yeah. That
problem,
won't be
that
a
shouldn't be a problem.
Well,
with
maybe
the
we
new
can
school.
have the parents of the middle high school students have a shuttle bus then, because the middle high school has no parking. I found that today when I went over there, like none.
No,
I-
it's not a
it
good
was-
situation there either, it's true.
Yeah, it's,
Yeah.
You gotta take my
It's not
little
good.
10-minute parking spot, you know, when you first go into that lot on the left, there's no sign that says no parking, it doesn't say anything. So I interpret that as 10-minute parking.
I took
She
that
makes
today,
her own
but it
rules.
was a little
This is
more.
what we said about parents in Georgetown, they make their own rules. And everybody has their own idea of
bring a
what
chair with a
they
sign
want.
reserved for Pamela.
I always
Yeah.
respect, you know, if someone
your
says
beach
no
chair.
parking, then I don't park there, I wouldn't dream of it, but it's left
But
up
if
to
it
your
doesn't say
imagination,
anything, I
there's no
just
sign.
assume it's
Now you
That
just
makes
told your
sense to
secret, so
me.
other people
Yeah.
might choose to adopt your philosophy.
What
Well,
I do- what
I
I do-
understand that you
I
need
think
a
Peter will
10-minute
put a
parking
sign
spot,
up
I think it's a good use of the space.
What I do think is very interesting though is even on the weekends, when there's events at the high school, nobody parks in Peter's spot.
Really?
You do?
Now you know when you're trying
It's
to
like
go to an event, who's in your spot.
Well, I mean, if you wouldn't, I
Your
wouldn't dream
spot,
of
but
take-
you
I
don't
wouldn't
have a
take it
spot that
away
says
from you.
reserved
Yeah.
for principal, right?
wouldn't take
People
it
just
away.
know it's your
He's not gonna
spot.
be there.
It says reserve.
But it doesn't say for principal,
No, but-
right? Everybody just knows.
No.
Oh, you don't wanna say principal?
No, just, you know, on
Or
the-
you
on
can
the
have
weekend
guys
when-
parking space with the big bear cat, you know, reserved for the big cat. Have you ever seen? Have you ever seen when you first go in? There's the one that goes right in, and there's a big bear. There's a big paw.
Oh, that's his?
Because we call him the big cat. So he's got his parking spot.
Oh, that's
Nobody ever goes in the big cat's parking spot either.
Oh, that's funny.
It is interesting.
During school
Everybody
hours, I
should get
wouldn't
their
know.
own little icon. And the first day of school, the staff will all have to figure out, what's my icon? Where do I park?
Parking is a
Parking
real
is bad.
challenge. And it's gonna be worse next year when we're doing the renovation, because they're gonna be parking trailers, there's
Well, the
no
turf
place to
field
put
didn't
them,
help.
you know. The turf field put
turf
things
field.
out of commission for a
But I
little
thought
bit.
I would see it better now that that lot is open.
Is it better, Peter? Is the parking better now that the turf field's parking is open again?
Well, yeah, it's better for all those students are in there.
But you're saying the whole parking situation seems.
Yeah, just visitors, because like
Oh.
today, when I went there were plenty of teacher spaces open, but I went around lunchtime, so I'm like, I can't park there because they're probably out at lunch.
The visitors are now in the big lot,
So
right?
all the visitors'
Yeah.
spaces were all taken. I mean, I don't know
okay.
how many there are, 6 or 7?
I don't know.
They were all taken, but,
You know what,
10
the
minute
building is landlocked there. I mean, it's really, unless there's some other way to go up on the hill and put a parking lot, there just really is limited options for parking there. And, same thing there, that everybody parks all around the library, I mean, wherever they can park.
right.
But can I just return to the Pembroke for a moment? You mentioned the buses coming at 2:40. Well, now school ends at 2:40, right?
2:45.
2:40, oh, 2:45, okay, I'm sorry. I've been out of Pembroke too long, okay.
But we have
'Cause-
plenty of time on learning, so we.
That's right, we have more time on learning than we need, but.
Okay, yeah,
Could always
'cause
use
I
more,
noticed
but-
that the buses go to the middle high school a little bit early, which is great, and they should, because you never know what's gonna happen. I mean, you have to give them a little leeway, so.
At Pembroke, what
Right.
happens now is there's 3 buses that get there pretty quickly. But then there's the other 2 that struggle to get through, but they go to Pearlie first.
Right.
So they're saying, if you don't have to go to Pearlie, then you should be able to get right over there, and they didn't seem to think that that was gonna be an issue, so. That's central to that working, is that the buses get there and get out.
Okay, so Pam, you had a school building committee meeting, right?
Yes, we had one on March 10th, so this is just this last Tuesday. And to start with the middle high school, the subcontractor bids are coming in. Today actually was the deadline for the general contractor bids, so they don't know yet how many, because we had the meeting on Tuesday. We approved the withdrawal of 3 contractor bids, from Alson Roofing, Levangie Electric, and J&M Painting.
And so what'd you do with them?
They wanted to withdraw.
Oh.
So we just allowed that.
They had to
You
return,
allowed
the-
it?
they had to return the bonds.
It was a vote.
They had to take a vote because they returned the bonds.
Oh.
They give bonds when they put their bids in. That was the purpose of the vote.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And Courtney said it was because they had errors in their bids or
That's
something.
correct.
Right.
Yeah.
It was a very long conversation about something that I really, I don't know, seemed long, didn't it?
It did. I mean, if these people, they don't want to bid, that's,
Right.
fine.
Yeah.
I mean, we
Convince you
would,
anyway.
I'm sure they're great companies and it's our loss, but that's the way it is. So the timeline, I wanted to kind of review the timeline of construction, because I know people have a lot of questions about when things are gonna happen, and it kind of gets updated and more completed every time I hear it.
But Ellie and Michelle are gonna come to the school committee, so you can determine
That's
whether or not you wanna do that now, or
Part
you
of
wanna
why,
wait.
okay,
They're
this
gonna
is
come.
very brief, I won't
Yeah.
go into any kind of detail like they will, yet, to let you guys know, next, on March 24th, the building, Ellie and Michelle and the school building committee there may be other members as well, will come and present to the school committee, just to answer our questions about both building projects.
It's the 26th, is it?
26.
Is it the 26th?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm sorry, okay, 26th. So during April vacation, which is April 20th through the 24th, the construction of the gym renovation will start. And that will be finished in late August, early September, so there won't be any summer use for youth sports. July 1st, the rest of the high school project will begin, including the roof, exterior, and interior. Most work will be done during the summer. Everything in the school will be done by the end of September, except for the strip of rooms vacated by the 6th grade. Those will be done by the end of November. December 2015 will be substantial completion. March 2016 is final completion, and June 2016 is the closeout. Is that succinct?
It's going to
Good.
be very packed.
Okay, yeah, and the schedule is actually gonna be like that. It's gonna be tight, and everything has to be done
There can
just
be
at the
no
right time.
delays.
Right. So the Pembroke, we moved on to the Pembroke. The project continues to be under budget, with an underbid savings of $1,683,000 remaining. We're starting to move into the punch list stage in certain areas. The work that's currently being done is the envelope work, the windows, doors, masonry, roof edge and trim, interior drywall, paint,
ceiling, millwork, casework, et cetera. So just to let you know, there's still a lot going on and work is taking place. I hope people, got a good sense of what has been accomplished by the pictures that we've been putting out and will continue to do so. Speaking of that, on April 14th is the next school building committee meeting. And the school committee and the board of selectmen will be invited for a tour that's going to start at 6:30 p.m.
What
That-
day was that, Pam? I'm sorry, April what?
That's April 14th.
So that's the night before the Disney trip.
Oh.
Oh, yes, yes. And then the school building committee meeting will be at 7:30 that night, but, and it's gonna take place at the Pembroke. Again.
6:30?
Yes.
April 14th is also the 4th and 5th grade concert.
Ooh.
Oh,
Oh, 4th and 5th grade concert over at the high school?
Well,
Okay. Well-
you might wanna, well, the people who wanna go on the tour can go on the tour. We just have to set up another tour for people who can't, cause we'll be in
Right.
that same boat. We'll wanna go to the concert.
right.
What time was the tour?
It's at 6:30.
I think the
Yeah.
concert's at 7.
6. Well,
Oh,
6 for
6.
4th graders, 7 for
Oh,
5th
they
grade.
don't, well, oh,
They do it early.
so you have a
4th
fourth
grader.
grader. Because, they don't usually last that long.
I know, it'll be over by 6:30,
Yeah,
but,
okay. So I
but
guess we
it's my
leave it as
daughter's
it is,
concert,
and
I
people
have to
that can
take her
go
out
will
for
go.
ice cream or something
Right,
after,
well,
unless you
that's
let me
true,
bring her
that's
to tour
true.
the school building, which she would really like, as much as
Members.
she would like ice cream, I'm sure.
The school building committee that requested 6:30 because it was
6:30,
gonna be
yeah. Well,
difficult
that's
to
not-
make
they're not going to a
anything. That
concert.
was, so it was decided to have it at
That's
6:30.
fine, that's fine.
And I would imagine that closed-toed shoes will be also recommended. And,
No flip-flops.
no, okay. The sun, let's see, anything else? Then there was more discussion about the garage, which we have formerly been calling it the shed, but we'll now call it the garage.
bigger.
Because it's bigger.
size.
The plans have moved from 400 square feet to 1,200 square feet. Yes,
It's a garage.
it's a garage to store outdoor
Much needed,
equipment,
yeah.
plows, snow blowers, irrigation controls, field maintenance items, all kinds of things.
Hey, I'm
Yes,
sorry,
sure.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Michelle Smith gonna be at the school building tour, cause she also has 4th graders, so
I don't know.
who will be,
She emailed me
Okay.
because the concert actually changed. Remember, it had been the week before, but
Right.
because of the snow, Mr. Polston moved
Right.
it back. So she emailed me tonight and I said, I'm pretty certain they did move it, so I haven't heard from her, so,
You think the concert's not on the 14th?
no, I know it, well,
It is on the
I
14th.
never, dates are not my thing, but I'm 99.9% sure it's the 14th.
I'm pretty sure it's, cause,
Right.
yeah,
But-
I was,
Michelle didn't know
She wouldn't
that
have known
they
it,
had
yeah.
changed it, so
Right.
I'm just saying, I haven't gotten an email, but she might suggest we
changed the
change
tour,
that, so.
yeah.
So I guess the date's to DBD.
Okay.
Pencil it in, not pen, put it in with pen.
Okay, so the tentative plan is for April 14th.
Just, yeah.
Right, this can happen. So what it means is that we're definitely gonna have to go from a slab to a foundation, and Mike Farrell, the town administrator, has been helping us to identify different options. We're probably gonna go either one of two ways. We're gonna have to take bids for a modular building. There are all kinds of complicated special modular building laws that we would have to abide by. Or we can take bids from 3 different metal building manufacturers. We talked about a budget for this of about $35,000, and we hope to build it in the summer or the fall, the late summer or early fall. We talked about that because this garage is gonna be the first visible structure that you see as you're driving down the way, it should be
Nice.
nice, relatively attractive, yes, in keeping with the look of the school and the town. For $35,000.
Little flower boxes.
Yes.
little-
Okay, we talked about opening type of ceremonies and closing, and a goodbye ceremony. And there was a lot of discussion around it. It sounds to me like there was consensus around having a goodbye ceremony on Monday, June 22nd for the students. potentially with Sharpies, having planned what kind of respectful, artistic creations they wanted to leave on the wall, something like that. There would be an open house for students and families sometime in August scheduled, and was that the event that we're talking about doing grade by grade, or no?
That's the second.
That's everybody could come in, okay, for that time. That's the next one,
It's like a
the
town.
open house for students and families on Tuesday, September first, in the late afternoon. Okay, and that's the day before, the first day of classes is September second. We talked about a ribbon cutting ceremony with state officials, followed by tours for the public on a Saturday in October or late September, when the officials could make it. And that's it.
It's exciting. Okay. Michelle will bring that picture, I'm sure, right? Because I have to visualize that whole drop-off thing that you talked
I
about.
know, I'll put it in your packet and we'll go over it.
Okay. Okay, we have, new business. The, superintendents, we have the evaluation timeline
Yeah, because it's gonna be
coming
April.
up. Yeah, I know.
It's crazy.
The timeline looks doable.
I mean,
I thought last year was a little rushed.
tight, yeah, so
Didn't
that's
you
why
think?
we tried to elongate it.
Yeah. I thought last year was a little, like all of a sudden when you look at your calendar and you're like, oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
oh my God, we
only
gotta
had-
get a date, yeah.
Yeah, so did you guys take a look at it and think
Yeah,
that it was
no, I
doable?
thought it looked, wow,
You were what?
I was impressed. It
Oh.
doable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the goal, is to make it doable. And then there's one for the,
For us,
school committee
the school
evaluation too.
yeah. Yeah, so I thought it all looked good.
All right, so let's work with that then.
Okay, so the chair will entertain a motion to, approve. Can I do them
Yeah,
both together?
I think so.
Okay, the, school committee self-evaluation process and timelines for 2015, as well as the superintendent evaluation process and timelines for 2015 as presented.
Great.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. We had an athletic donation, which Chris talked about. Actually, you know what? He didn't talk about this. He talked about the helmets.
No, we talked about the
He talked
test.
about the way he.
Oh.
It's the impact testing.
Okay, so maybe I'm thinking that this, okay, because the helmets was new. We didn't have that
Right,
in
and
here.
helmets
Okay.
are one of the most expensive parts.
No, how much does a
of-
helmet cost?
I don't know, but they're one of the most expensive parts of the,
Uniform.
equipment
Oh,
that you
yeah.
wear, and it's obviously the one that you wanna have the greatest, quality, because obviously.
And
if
we
you're-
recently had new ones. I remember when Carrie Denley was here.
I think
talked about
when the
partners
partners
in
for
football.
football, but I think, I
We
mean,
didn't
that
have a-
had just
We
formed.
didn't have them for every student, I don't
Right,
think.
there was only so many.
And that had just formed shortly before I came, so I've been here 8 years.
Right.
So I think it's probably been in that, you know, 8 to
I've
10
heard
year.
from parents, they really would like new ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, they must be, they're gonna be so
It changed
excited.
a lot, I bet.
The
in 8
technology's
years.
changed
Yeah.
on them, yeah, absolutely.
Oh, not to mention that we have younger kids playing in the varsity team.
That's right.
You know,
That's
playing
right.
against these other schools that have these big enormous children, so.
Oh, it's critical, it makes a
yeah,
huge
it
difference in
definitely is.
concussion prevention. I mean, it's not the whole story, it's one piece of it, but it's an important piece.
Mm-hmm.
Very generous.
Yeah, so this is the donation for the, post-concussion assessment and cognitive testing for a pilot program to benefit Georgetown High School and our student athletes. Which is monetarily valued at $600, which is very, generous, and that is from Mr. Gerald McKillop, Director of the, Leahy Clinic for Community Relations. So I just wanted to thank, him for that very generous donation, and to, make a motion to accept the $600 donation from Mr. Gerald McKillop, Director of Community Relations for Leahy Health, with gratitude.
So moved.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. And we got another, wonderful parent donation for, an iPad at the Pembroke School, which we always talk about how generous our parents are. So that was very nice of
And this is
this
a
family.
matching.
I was gonna
This
say,
is
the
a
expectation
matching.
is gonna be matched.
Great.
That's
Those
very
like two
generous.
items.
So this is an anonymous donation, so we do thank that family for being so generous. The chair will entertain a motion to accept the $500 donation with gratitude as presented.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And then we have
So the next one is what Chris was talking about.
Yep.
You know, anytime we, outside of the contract, if we make an agreement, we do a side letter. And then if, you know, the next opportunity, we have to put it actually in the contract. And, we do try to, when the, determining the stipend, we do try to sort of create some comparability to, you know, some other sports that seem more similar. And so this one, the perception of the folks talking about it was, it would fit into something like the cross-country coach. So that's comparable to, so they just really took the cross-country coach's salary and said, you know, that's what we're gonna recommend, that it be that, so. This would be signed by Barbie and Joe, and, you know, it would then go into the contract and the schedule.
So the date on this letter that I just signed is saying that we approved it on March 26th. So should a new letter go out?
Yes.
I can stop by, I'll stop by when Laura's in.
So we'll just change that date.
Okay, so
to the
we'll
12th,
approve
and then we'll
this.
sign it.
It's also for the wrong year, I think.
Oh,
Isn't it for next year?
Yeah.
It's for-
yes,
it's for the
so
fall.
so it's for the
Yes.
20, I think we're, well,
15,
let's fix the letter by way.
2016.
So 2015, 16, okay, and then we have to do that twice, right? 2016, and.
The
then-
amount is right?
Yeah.
I don't know, I don't have my
That's the
contract
most
with me.
important thing, the amount is right,
Might be different.
yeah. I
Okay,
think
so
we're
we'll
good.
go ahead and approve that.
Yeah.
So the chair will entertain a motion to approve the volleyball coach stipend ranging. in
Well,
the
it's
amount-
two levels.
Okay,
Remember,
so
there's
level, for level
and
one, in the amount of $3,679, and for level two, $4,179 for the 2015-2016 school year, as presented.
So moved.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, so I won't bother giving you that.
No,
Come
it's
back.
just,
Okay. And then we just have the first reading of, policy GCCD, domestic violence leave policy. So let's take a look at that.
and I just wanna, I did include this letter I got from Reverend Lorraine Edwards from the First Congregational Church of Georgetown, appreciating the work of our
food
our
pantry.
students and the food pantry. You know, I mean, it's just amazing what our kids can, you know, do in the community through many of the organizations civic organizations that, you know, parents and community members run. And, you know, I just think it's really important to. And before we end, did you have a chance to read this?
Yeah.
Anybody
Where did
read
that
this?
come from?
Yeah,
Okay,
I looked
so
through it.
this came from, the Mass Association of School Superintendents, because there are many districts with the snow that are struggling.
Yeah.
So they took it upon themselves also to ask questions about, like, when do you start school, before or after Labor Day, what kind of district are you? So I included it, cause I just think this stuff is very interesting, you know? So I just wanted to make sure that, you know, it didn't just kind of go into the superintendent's information and you didn't really, you know, look at it. And then, of course, they took the time to collate all the comments that they
Which are very
received too. So it's just interesting and, you know,
I thought it was interesting about the modifications for school calendars.
yes,
How, like
yes.
eliminating February vacation, I was surprised.
It
You know,
didn't get a lot
eliminating-
of votes though. Do you
No, but it
see
was
that?
still like, I mean, you're thinking of everything.
Oh, yeah.
There, you
Moving
know,
to a-
school on Saturday, I was like,
Yeah,
oh,
that was how people were gonna suffer.
Moving to a pre-Labor Day.
Pre-Labor Day,
That's the
Labor
most
Day's, but
popular.
Labor Day's
That's the
been,
most
you
popular.
start before Labor Day, like many, 63% or so, some 60%. It's just interesting. I just find this stuff fascinating. I don't know what you
Yeah.
do with it, other than to sort of just appreciate it, but.
oh, I love looking at
you know,
surveys and just getting an
Mass
idea.
Association of School Superintendents has really been trying to, you know, do these kind of things that then help, you know, have informed conversations in, you know, in districts
Well, I
as
love
to.
how you have that opportunity to, when something comes up, you just send it out to,
Right, we have a
I
listserv.
love that,
We have a listserv, so,
just to
We
get
all
an
have it.
idea of what.
yeah, and the
so
business managers have a
buzzword, the buzz
listserv.
things
Mike
going
Anderson
on.
has one, Donna Straight has
Yeah,
one,
I
it's
think
really,
that's great.
it's so helpful.
It's a great way to depend on your colleagues for some direction.
And I'll tell you, some people are on it all day long.
Yeah,
Cause
see,
I
yeah.
ask a question and you get like 50 answers.
Right off the bat.
They're waiting for that bing.
You know,
But,
what's
you know-
funny is sometimes I never get to answer them. I try because it's, you know, it's only
She's
fair.
busy, we keep her busy.
Right, but it's only fair because, you know, when you put yours out, you want
You
answers.
want
But
three,
some
right.
people, I swear, that's all they do all
Well,
day.
you remember when we were talking about the technology director and I put those
Yeah.
5 questions out, and that was wonderful, because then you really could get a sense of, okay, you know, this is what 45 districts are doing across the state, and
Listservs are wonderful,
They-
professional listservs,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's helpful.
Yeah.
Certainly helpful.
yeah, so it is great, we do take advantage of the networking, but I included it because I thought it was interesting, I figured you might.
No, I
Like
like
to see
the
it.
information that you, provide us in here, so don't ever think
No,
that we
no,
look
I
at it
know,
like it's.
absolutely. Oh, no, I don't, I know you.
You know, and I
you
noticed
look
that
at
you put in the spelling bee, which that was a great,
it. Yeah,
event.
that was an excellent
Yeah,
event.
the kids amazed me, like some of the words, I'm like, are they really gonna spell this right? And they
Actually, the
did.
third
Well,
grade
I did the
students
fourth
went all
grade
the way
judging.
through the 4th grade words.
I was very impressed, and you know what I was impressed about is, and I don't wanna sound like I'm surprised, but both 3rd and 4th grade were boys up there.
100%,
I
yeah.
was.
Finalists,
I
yeah.
know, it was just,
won the 5th grade.
oh, really? I didn't stay for the 5th grade. Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
good for them. Yeah, it was a fun night.
So we have an executive session briefly.
Yes, okay, so, the meeting is adjourned at 9:25. We are, in need of an executive session, which we will not be returning, on air. So at 9:25, the chair will entertain a motion to go into executive session, chapter 30A, section 21, for the purpose of
It's personnel.
personnel issues. All in favor?
Roll call?
Roll
Is it a
call.
roll call?
Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Aye, yes.
Great. Thank you. Good night. We'll
Good
see you in
night.
a couple of weeks.